always think of you when spring comes. Like it's something in the air at that time. Don't know why. Always dream of you when spring comes. It's like the heat on my skin takes me back to the time met you on a Friday, halfway out at the door of the club, playing soul on the weekends. Stayed in bed till Wednesday. Fell in love with you right there and then. I was young, couldn't see that. Jacket though is too cold. Saw your face in the crowd and I think without eyes. Her just perfect, yeah, she's beautiful. Never thought you'd be here, it took me by surprise when I met you in the doorway. And a friend of a friend, never thought I would see you this soon, but hope she really loves you. 'Cause I swear you deserve everything. Wish that I knew that sooner. We got sober, it was over, but I told you I'd do it all over again. At your place over spring break, a heartache. I'd do it all over again. Do it all over again. Tell me a lie, and I tell you too. I say that I'm happy for the two of you. You wanna be friends, but I don't think I can. But I wanna be happy, happy for you.
Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly. Look in my eyes, don't let it fall on me. Say you're a good guy, make me believe it. Don't wanna hear it, I wanna see it. See how rewind when we rewind. Feels so nice. With time, you I know how
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Badass University All-Stars Season 3. And two doors yesterday, we had a really good game, and today, only promising to bring more, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely so. Obviously, in case of you guys missed out on yesterday's matches, then boy oh boy, let's go ahead and give you the TLDR of what exactly happened yesterday. It was a very tight evening. Each and every single one of the three matches that we had were extraordinarily close affairs. Naturally, we had Team Trident going up against IOM. That was a repeat of Season 2 semifinal number 1, in which, well, Team Trident, they unfortunately suffered quite the L. They lost 6-8 against IOM. It didn't necessarily go the full distance of all 15 rounds of overtime, but still, it was an absolutely massive showing from both squads on Clubhouse. Then shifting gears, we had CW go up against PW, in which PW, they mounted a comeback unlike anything we had actually ever seen thus far in Season 3 of Bool. PW, they were basically fighting with their backs up against the wall on Chalet. Combat Wombats, they were sitting on match point for God knows how long. You could probably go ahead and actually jump to the local pub, grab yourself a beer, and come back, and that match would have still been ongoing. PW, they managed to win 7 consecutive rounds in a row to finally nab themselves 2 points over CW. And then, to conclude yesterday's matches, I should say, it was Atlas that eventually beat out Veggie Patch, also on Chalet 7-4. But naturally, before we do conclude week number 2, we have 2 more matches that are going to be taking place this evening. Namely, we've got Deviants going up against Lockdown Ludens, and then to close off the series in roughly about an hour's time from now, so we're taking a look at something around like 7 p.m. BST. That's going to be Team 9 going up against Man I Love Frogs, also known as Frogs. So that is essentially what we have got in stock for you guys this evening. 2 more matches to conclude week number 2, and then by the end of it, we'll be able to see exactly how these teams fare in overall rankings. I'm super duper excited to jump into the action. I hope you are as well, Creedy.
I really am, because I did catch that comeback yesterday of Poggy Woggy and Combat Wombats, and it just got me round to go. That's all I can really say.
Yeah.
We're going to take a look towards the schedule, just to remind you, just so it's on your screen, so that you know exactly what's going on. And I feel like, we're having a really strong game. Deviants and Lockdown Ludens obviously returning. They have not changed their roster since day 1 of Badass University All-Stars, so they've got a lot of coordination, and in week 1, it's certainly shown. They really stepped up. They had very coordinated attacks, very comfortable when it came to these attacking rounds, and defensive as well. They had good coordination. They had good refracs. They knew exactly what they needed to do, and they gave a very good demonstration of the game. Obviously, Team Deviants, they're going to be wanting to upset that. And I think the big thing for me is you need to catch Ludens off guard. Right now, they've been very comfortable. They've been very set in their ways in the one map we've seen so far, purely because we're in the stage at the moment, which Jerry described as, well, all your teams are trying to get that synergy. They're trying to work together. They go into these default maps, and Lockdown Ludens, they don't have to worry about that. They've had the time to perfect the strats, the synergy, all these little kinks that a lot of teams struggle with at the very start. Ludens don't really have that problem. So if you catch them off guard, you start making them feel a little bit uncomfortable. I want to see a kind of aggressive style of play, not too much, just measured enough to kind of put them on the back foot, 2 doors.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of possibilities heading into this particular matchup. The first one that we have lined up, Deviants versus Ludens. And the one thing that I actually will say about this is the fact that, in case of you guys missed out on week number 1's matches from both of these 2 squads, Lockdown Ludens, they were able to beat out CW 7-4 on Villa, and IOM, they beat out Deviants also on Villa 7-5. So currently Deviants, they haven't scraped together any points whatsoever. Lockdown Ludens, though, they are currently sat on 3 whole points, and this is a very important thing to bring up, because the current 2 teams that are in the top 2, PW and IOM, they are sat on 5 points because naturally both of their 2 matches went to overtime yesterday. This is the prime opportunity for Ludens to get themselves 3 points and immediately bombard themselves up towards that pole position. Naturally, they just have to go against the Deviants and somehow be able to avoid overtime at all costs, which technically speaking should be a relatively easy thing to accomplish, let's say. Now, naturally, because of the fact that we did visit Villa, or both of these two teams, they visited Villa last week, it means that it is going to be the primary auto ban, so we're likely to see something else from the T4 trifecta. I guess we shouldn't even call it a trifecta anymore, because Villa somehow snuck its way in. It's like a T4 quadrant, I don't know exactly.
The T4, I think just emphasis on the 4, maybe, that might be an important part. But yeah, exactly. But it's not going to be an easy task for Team Deviant. They've really got to step up. They've got to show why they deserve to leapfrog those two teams. And I think they'll be very happy that they're not heading back to Villa. The question is, where are they going? Let's bring up those map bans and take a quick look. Obviously, that Villa isn't going to be on the board. We're expecting maps like, Consulate, Coastline. I'm not really expecting them to be on the board that quickly. But Chalet will be taken away because of the Ludens and the Deviants on Villa. And moving on forward, we're going to be looking towards CAF and Consulate removed. So one of the T4 and a very aggressive map. Ludens, this makes a lot of sense. They've never really wanted to play it. Clubhouse, Coastline taken away, and there it is, your Oregon Two Doors. A map that, well, you look at it and Deviants, they're going to want to take defense, they're going to go to Master, they're going to go to Kick Storms, they're going to go down to bottom floor. It's all down to Ludens to really take the fight to them on this map, and I feel like they're the team that's perfect to do that. They've gone to a default map, and while it helps newer teams because they don't have to expand their map pool that quickly, Lockdown Ludens, they've had time to develop default strats, and they are probably going to be used to whatever Deviants have to throw at them.
Yeah, I definitely have to say that this is a really, really sensible overall map choice for both of these two squads. And I gotta say that, well, on the side of Ludens, they don't really want to take any risks. Naturally, they were the one squad that basically had the say, the overall last word, in which map we will visit, and naturally they chose to actually ban out Coastline. Now, if we were to actually draw our minds back all the way to Season 1, Lockdown Ludens, they had their fair share of really, really good affairs on Coastline, but that was many, many moons ago. So sadly, we'll be returning to Oregon, but naturally it does make sense for both of these two squads. Deviants, they are scrambling for points, as I once said. They currently sit on absolutely nothing, but that is to be expected. It is still very, very early days within the season, and Lockdown Ludens, they're willing to power through, as we did state a couple of times, to leapfrog themselves over the top two teams and eventually just sit on 6 points rather comfortably. But I don't think that that's actually going to be possible. Now, I'm not necessarily willing to throw out a prediction right over here, but because of the fact that we are going to, well, Oregon, that may not necessarily be as old as time itself, it certainly feels like it is. This is a map that both of these two squads should be extraordinarily well versed on, specifically Ludens as well. I think it's going to be a really, really close affair. We may potentially see overtime, but I do think, and I'm banking my money on the fact that we will see all 12 rounds of regulation to see exactly how both of these two teams will stand by the end of Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at those map bans and I'm saying, if you are the Deviants, you might want to take them to Coastline. You rely on your mechanical ability a lot more, and like I said, an aggressive style of play, it might put Ludens on the back foot, but they've taken it away. They've gone to a default map. They've gone to a map with strategy. You can't play that aggressive game because if you give away too much, then you overexpose, you overcommit, and then suddenly that soft underbelly of your defensive setup left by these gaps and these aggressive roamers, that's when Luden's going to strike. The belly of the turtle, it's quite nice for them to kind of flip it on its head. I quite like that. But I feel like Coastline would have been the better map. We're not going to be heading there, and I feel like Luden's, for them, they made the right choice. But I feel like if we were going to see a Deviant win, it would be on Coastline. But that's not to count them out of the game just yet. I have to back the Ludens, history, my thoughts coming into this. But Deviants do have a good choice. I mean, on Villa, they've shown some sparks of greatness. I mean, they had some opportunities that they could have taken on. They were able to pick up a couple of rounds. It's only their one Playday. I mean, and you've already gone up against a team like IOM. You have to be at the point of, we're gonna take control of this. You can't be letting yourself get mentally put down already because you're only 2 Playdays in. So
yeah, that's true.
It's possible to win. I've got to back Ludens, but it can go either way.
It definitely could go either way. The only thing that actually makes me just a tad bit skeptical about Deviants' overall performance is, given their record thus far from specifically that match that we saw last week between themselves and IOM on Villa, And this is something that I spoke like relatively freely about last week when I was casting with Whippet. Naturally, both of the two matches that took place last Tuesday, they were both on Villa, and we saw a lot of really, really recycled strategies throughout the entire matchup through those 2 hours. And the main reason why I was actually very, very let down about Deviance's overall performance was because of the fact that they showed a lot of really, really just exuberant amounts of overall stubbornness when it came to their strategies that they were employing. I remember for a fact that they visited Aviator and Games as a bomb site on Villa far too many times for me to count on my fingers and toes combined. And almost each and every single time they lost out on AVG. I think the only team that was actually able to win out a defense successfully on AVG was either IOM, or it must have potentially been PW at the time because they had such a dominant performance against 9, 7-2. And that is the main reason why I'm personally not going to be banking on Deviants far too much, is because of their overall stubbornness when it came to their performance last week. Naturally, Oregon, it is a completely different story in its entirety. There are many more opportunities and many more viable bomb sites compared to what Villa can offer, so hopefully this time around they will definitely turn over a new leaf and actually bring us something just a tad bit more interesting to show, and not necessarily fall back towards those bad habits that they exhibited last week.
I mean, yeah, look at Oregon, and it's a map that definitely all those 4 bomb sites do have their merits. You can go to them, and if you defend them properly, then they will have a lot of benefit to you. But I feel like that stubbornness, yet again, I'm going to lead it back to this. Coastline is the map that you want to be taking Ludens to. Yes, they have mechanical ability, but that was a while ago. If you look back to Season 1, they dominated the first round and won it out, and then immediately fell off. The other teams had a massive resurgence. Teams like Chexel and Ophis, they came all the way back up to the top and said, we don't really care about the lockdown Ludens.
No.
Brutal as it is, but Ludens, I feel like on Coastline, you can be stubborn against them. You can say, right, we're just going to go to Hookah. We're going to change the playstyle, not the setup, because Coastline's a map where the site choice, the setup, it's not as important as the roam game. How you're taking these gunfights, how you're working together.
Yeah.
I keep harking on about it. I keep wanting to see Coastline. And it might be because I love Coastline, but
I do love Coastline as well. Yeah.
Yeah, in this case, it's got to be the statistics backing me up. And it's my thought process more in general. Because I look at Oregon and I'm like, yeah, you have more maps, you have more opportunities, but like you said, it relies on breaking out that stubbornness, being willing to try new things.
Yeah.
And the big problem is with a map like Oregon, if you don't run that default setup, then 9 times out of 10, especially in the early stages of a team, Tudors, there might be something you've forgotten. Say you're playing a very heavy attic game, you might have forgotten about White Stairs or Big Window.
Yeah.
That might not be something that Deviant might have ironed out already. That's a big problem for me heading into Oregon.
Yeah, it can definitely be a possibility. Only time can tell. One thing that I actually do want to bring up before we actually do dive into the op-ends this time being is predictions, naturally. Those, the Twitch channel point predictions, or as we now call them from now on, we call them the Badass Biscuits because Cairo said so he said so yesterday, so that's officially what they are called. Apparently, 54% of you are going to be backing up the Ludens, and 46% of you guys are going to be backing up the Deviants, in case if that wasn't already apparent. I myself am going to be banking on the Ludens this time around. McCready, I want to hear your thoughts. Who are you going to be banking on, and if you'd like to throw out a prediction for the overall score, what do you think it's going to be?
You've heard my prediction a million times. Like I said, I'm backing the Ludens on this one, but I feel like Deviants on defense, they might be able to pick up a couple of rounds. But this ban phase is really going to screw them over just a little bit, because Flores being banned means Thatcher's still on the board.
True.
Deviants, they've opted for that utility destruction of Flores to be taken away, but the answer was a Maverick ban. You're probably hoping for a Thatcher ban, because Maverick obviously is useless as an operator if Thatcher's on the board, because why wouldn't you just bring the Thatcher? You get the EMP, you get the wall open, you take away Mirror and Gate, and suddenly Ludens, this is a very attacker-sided ban phase.
This really, really is, and the main reason why that actually is so apparent is because of the fact that Thermite...
7-2.
A 7-2? 7-2 in favor of Ludens? Okay, I think I'm gonna one-up that. I'm gonna say 7-3 in favor of Ludens as well. I think Deviants can certainly put up a fight. They may get lucky with potentially one tertiary bomb site win, but that's about where it stops. The one thing that I actually do want to quickly point out is the availability of Thermite. He wasn't, unfortunately, he wasn't actually flashed by Ludens. They've opted instead to bring out Gyobu on the ace, but the main reason why I want to bring up Thermite so badly is because of the fact that, well, he has now taken over those smoke grenades that were once in the back pocket of Ace. He has become that much more of a viable operator, and you can obviously get those walls open much more rapidly than an Ace can as well. And then just on top of that, you know, smoke grenades, it helps you set up for the post plant, and then you've got your classic PBJ combo with Thatcher. It just makes so much more sense, but I think Ludens, they might just be, you know, a bit more accustomed to bringing out the ace and that overpowered AK-12. Regardless, though, we're going to be starting off on the top floor this time around. That is the Deviants' first choice, and I suspect that this may be easy pickings for Ludens, namely because of Gady being on that Thatcher, as we stated a bit earlier.
Yeah. Now, the big thing that I want to touch upon and lead on from what you were saying is... You've got the ace, and what that ace allows is the fact that you could just get these walls open very, very quickly. Ludens are going to be opting to go down below, maybe try and deal with this meeting Roma presence, actually. That would actually make quite a bit of sense to me, because you're saying, right, vertical play can be an issue, we've identified it, let's deal with it. But right now, you still got a lot of options. This Thatcher leaves you a lot of free time, a lot of this late game that the defense might be wanting to play. Doesn't really matter. No. Those walls get opened, those are Rooney gates, they get disabled, and Ludens will have access to that site. They can commit time to this roam clear, and with Kovac down below with the C4, you might just need to do exactly that. Proctor and Benji down below, they know that somebody could drop. They're not exactly stealthing their way around now, but you don't really need to. You want them to take these gunfights. You want them to play aggressively. You're going to get that breach open, and... well, this round is about to start. A minute left, and Magpie will rotate to keep an eye on it, but nothing's happened just yet. A C4 from Dumfries will go out, but doesn't find its mark. It just clears out a little bit of utility.
It's interesting that Ludens aren't actually sort of focusing any of their attention, resources, or manpower towards the attic portion of the map. That is usually one of the two prongs that goes hand in hand with a closet breach, but instead they're willing to deal with this bottom floor pressure to ensure that those C4s are much less of a headache to worry about later on. Sondanos and Kovac, those are going to be the two roadblocks that Ludens have to fight their way through. As Gyobu opens things up by picking off Dumfries, that means that the man advantage now sits with the Ludens, and it may soon start to snowball in their favor, or so I thought. Sondanos claps back with one of his own onto Benji, and just like that, we're back at an even playing field. 60 seconds left to play, and Ludens, it's go time for y'all.
Yeah, a massive kill from Sandanos there to be able to take away Benji. You keep that white stairs controlled. You keep that crossfire. That's all important that you can hold with Magpie. 50 seconds are ticking, and that Thatcher EMP will give away quite a bit of information, such as KK pushing through will be taken away by Magpie. And now Ludens a player disadvantage. Let's see how well this time has really helped out. They've got Proctor on the rotate, trying to go down below, trying to deal with this roam game. It's still, as long as that player is alive, it's going to be a horrible, horrible issue. Gady will take that damage, and that EMP caught in midair is going to make life a lot harder. You don't have any more, but it just got that utility on Trophy. Maybe you can push. Maybe you can get there as Proctor's able to even things up. But 15 seconds left. Magpie's going to try and find a kill. Doesn't land the shot, but you've done a lot of damage. That is enough, son. Jovi will be taken down to 1 HP, trying to get the plant down before Sandanos. Back in Magpie, they just clean up. The Deviants, that late round crossfire, beautifully held, will get them that first round.
Oh man, that was so overwhelming for Ludens. They just had so many different hurdles to try to cross and jump over throughout that entire round, and you could see that the overall intentions on the side of the Ludens, they were well thought through, but the overall execution of what they were trying to accomplish, not as much. You saw that they actually made really great strides towards claiming control of security and kitchen down below, but at the end of the day, those players, those roamers down below, they were allowed to persist for just a bit too long. And we saw that Ludens, they knew for a fact that they wanted to get themselves a plant off inside of Games Room. That's why that was the first initial breach that they were able to open up. But I feel as if they could have used a little bit of extra help in accomplishing all of those tasks at once. I feel as if Ludens, if they maybe brought themselves a secondary hard breach, either be it a Hibana, a Thermite, or hell, even just a trampoline or a can opener, to actually place on the meeting wall in towards kitchen, you can create an angle in towards the kitchen side and flush out those players, or at the very least make them a tad bit more uncomfortable so they can walk into the LOS of the players that were already in the main hallway shared between security and classroom. Because we saw that there was already, if I'm not mistaken, Proctor down below, who was holding down the flank, just waiting for the Deviants roamers to walk into his LOS, but that simply never happened. I don't want to say that Ludens placed their eggs into a single basket, because that clearly wasn't the case. They just shared their attention. They basically spread out their attention respectfully. They knew exactly what Deviants were trying to accomplish, but the overall execution of what they were trying to accomplish just wasn't bang on the money.
Now, moving into the second round and this bottom floor defense, one of my criticisms of Deviants was maybe they would be running the default strats. Maybe that would be an issue with Ludens being prepared for it, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I think they've wanted to take them to Oregon. They've done the prep, they've done the setup, and this Flores ban makes a lot more sense when you look at this setup. Your mute jammers, your castle barricades, really important strongholds of this extended defense towards the kitchen. And if you take that away with a Flores drone, you start picking apart the setup. You can do the same thing with a Thatcher EMP, but it makes a lot more sense to take away the Flores now. And a little bit of damage will be taken off the Magpie, but not enough to really cause any issues. You just know that Benji's down at the bottom of the fight in showers. A minute is off the clock, and the question is, how are Ludens going to deal with this? Are they going to go for this clear? Are they just going to go onto site, realizing they have upstairs control? Let's just get a very fast plant down. Looks like we're going to see a little mix of both. The rest of Ludens wanting to get in toward meeting, but Kovac is waiting. Spack being nearby as well, wants to help out, but Kovac knows that somebody is there. You're going to strike. Oh! You're not going to land the shots. Somehow KK's able to get away with it, and now Kitchen is about to open up, but Sandanos is rotating around. Thanks to that little rotate in the area, now you can play behind. You can go for a flank yourself, and Magpie wants to strike onto Benji. This is very nicely played from Deviants, and Magpie will be able to even things up.
Indeed he does, but for the time being, Ludens, they have yet to actually deal with Sandanos, but KK, he just comes on in, wraps in through kitchen, and they're able to deal with one of their major headaches that was left on the top floor itself. Now, the last roamer, quote-unquote, that they actually have to deal with is Magpie, who, for some unknown reason, actually is choosing to overstay his welcome on the top floor, and he gets rewarded doing so, actually. Absolutely domes Proctor, and now he can just quickly antsy on through that hatch the moment he gets it open. It might be glitched, question mark, I really can't tell, and he's gonna lose his life because Ubisoft just said no. That's a bit of a heartburner, but regardless, we're gonna now sit in a 2v2 scenario. 30 seconds left for Ludens to make this work, and it is definitely doable. Giobu, already taking up the reins inside of Freezer, has an angle towards the player over by that washing machine, but can't land the shots. Dumfries is tucked deep inside the corner, and now KK, he has to go on the aggression. He will finally be taken out by Spack, and now it's all down to Giobu. He's got the weapon to do the job, but unfortunately enough, the positioning not in his favor. Spack is going to collect the final kill, and just like that, we have Deviant striking, not necessarily back, but just overall striking. They're 2 for 2 on their defense thus far, and they've been putting up a great showing thus far.
Yeah, very, very nicely defended from them. They had a really nice crossfire towards the end. Their own game, it was calculated, it was measured. Moment of silence for Kovac there. Probably didn't hit the Kovac before this game, as rude as it may sound. Wasn't able to land the shots onto KK. If you take away that Jackal, you make that roam game a lot easier. You keep that top floor just that little bit longer, because they don't have that information. They don't know, okay, right, anyone who's on this top floor is now gone. But that's not really important. We were able to find Magpie evening things up. We were able to find Deviants just picking up kills that were unanswered from Ludens. Sandanos, that roam from you was very, very nice. That's what I love to see right there. As soon as you feel that pressure, you know, they're going to be coming kitchen, okay? I'll go meeting. I'll get behind them. If they're going to take one of our players, I'm going to put them in a kill box. And that was something that the Deviants kept throughout the entirety of the round. As soon as you get down to that bottom floor into Freezer, 3 angles will all just look towards Freezer because they knew that they weren't going to come anywhere else. You have Giobu, you have Benji, they have to push together, and they didn't. They had to push together, they had to have pace. Unfortunately, it just wasn't there for the sides of the Ludens and Deviants.
It wasn't, no.
Another really good, well-played round. They calculated it, they measured it, they decided what gunfights they needed to take, but the biggest test, Two Doors, it's going to be this side. It's going to be the kitchen dining. The big question is how the Ludens take this. They don't have a Thatcher, so they're probably just going to say, right, we EMP the
They do
wall,
have a Thatcher.
we get the ace on the board. A Thermite, sorry, I didn't mean to say. But with a Thatcher, it's not that big of an issue. The big problem is, though, Thatcher is not going for small tower. It makes you think, okay, maybe this is a meeting take, and this is one we don't actually see that often.
I'm actually curious right now, because naturally the Deviants, they've got Dumfries set up inside a shower, and that is a crucial portion of the map that you want to claim control of as soon as humanly possible if you're in the shoes of the Ludens. And obviously, having the likes of Gady toss out an EMP will disable any and all ADSs within its AoE. And just like that, you can then try to nade out the player, and that's going to be brought to you by none other than Benji himself. But for the time being, the Ludens are actually opting to clear out this top floor presence before they exert any kind of pressure towards the bottom floor. Kovac is already going to be the first to fall inside of Attic. Freebie for the time being, the moment that he gets cleaned on up, and I'm pretty sure he is just a lost soul at this certain point. Gady is going to take a bit of damage, but not lethal enough. And Deacons are still willing to hold on to this top floor with an iron grasp for the time being, yet to be dislodged, because Ludens, they have yet to apply any more pressure for the time being, but they're starting to creep and crawl their way on in. Sooner rather than later, Spack is going to drop through that hatch. As you can see, Sondanos, he's already begun his descent down the white staircase, and there he goes. And Spack is now going to just retreat as well. Ooh, narrowly. Can be recovered back to 20 HP, but now the top four, it sits firmly with the Ludens.
Yes, and KK is going to be looking to capitalize upon it. We'll try and find Dumfries, but isn't it a land a shot? The smoke canister will answer, and like you said, Spack will be revived, but as long as you have that presence towards White Stairs, you should be okay. In this case, it's going to be Dumfries. Sandanos has pulled back. They've said, like, let's play it safe, let's play it nice. But a minute left and you have that kid's control. Start doing the vertical play. Start picking them apart. That Jackal Scanner is going to give you a lot of help right now. We're going to see Proctor damaging Sandanos, but not landing the badly needed headshots to the player. Just goes downstairs. 40 seconds left. And you can drop into sight, but you've got to do a Magpie. You've got to do the Spec. There's so many problems right here for the Ludens, but Magpie isn't going to be one of them. Benji's going to walk in and we'll find one. Make that two. Dumfries has an answer onto Proctor, but right now it's a 2 versus 4, and one of them is nowhere nearby. Second smoke canister will go and tag out Gady before Dumfries finishes them off. Sandanos is going to get picked off as Yobu goes for the plant, and Ludens, they're about to get their first attacking win. Dumfries, can you get this shotgun kill? Smoke grenade will put them back in the shotgun. Ooh. You won't be able to see because of the smoke. Oh. You don't land it. And Benji's able to get the round for the Ludens. The first attacking round. It took them 3 rounds, but here they are.
That came down to the wire. Not necessarily the end of the round itself, but the overall mid-round transition towards the dying seconds of it. The main reason why I was actually primarily so blown away by the Deviants is because of what Sondanos was able to accomplish. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys may have caught a glimpse of what he was doing, but he was over by by the actual big tower itself, and he was constantly rotating in and out. The moment that you the moment that the Jackal Ping actually came on out, we saw that Proctor was narrowly able to actually dome Sondanos and send him to the Shadow Realm, but he managed to keep his life in tow, and Sondanos then rotated back up to try to take the high ground. The main reason why I find that to be so impressive because the Deviants are well aware of the fact that they need to keep the Ludens on their toes at all time. And what do they do to accomplish that? The Deviants, they are trying to remain as mobile as humanly possible, as unpredictable, I should say, as humanly possible. Now, naturally, it is a tertiary bomb site, so you're going to be at a distinct disadvantage as opposed to one of the primary bomb sites, but regardless, that went as well as it could have for the Deviants, and the Ludens, they certainly did strap themselves in. They picked up their slack from the last 2 rounds that they did lose out on, and they pulled themselves together to finally take the dub, and they did so quite convincingly. And I have a sneaking suspicion that it practically all came down to Benji, because he simply waltzed in through that kitchen doorway, found 2 kills that nobody on the side of Deviants was actually able to predict, and just like that, the Ludens had sight control. It was a really, really great play coming out from Benji. It is definitely, in my eyes, what technically differentiates a good player from a great player. Doing your job is one thing, but going above and beyond that is what Benji was able to accomplish.
Kovac, unfortunately, isn't going to be able to do that either. Benji, the player you're just talking about, will put a frag grenade in, or a drone actually, not even a frag, just making sure nobody's reviving before you go for it. But it seems that player is being baited by Sundownos. Deviants have returned to that top floor and they are able to defend it, but the big problem is that Dumfries can't play the smoke anymore, because you may have noticed there was one in the skin and has been warned as of now. Obviously, they lost the last round, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But moving on, Proctor's going to be able to find a kill onto Kovac. Will take down that 25 HP player, and Sundownos yet again, Toodles. As soon as they go one way, Sundownos is just finding a way to worm in behind them. 2 minutes on the clock, and while Deviants are down a player, they do still have that time to work with. As long as they can waste it a little bit longer, this one, Mayan Attic's going to be huge for that. As long as they waste it a little bit longer, this can be their round. Benji will rotate to that Attic, to the kids window, sorry, and will be trying to put that pressure for that late round push. The main wall's going to get opened up, and Luden's, while it's not as early as you hope in a round, they're focusing on getting the basics done right. First of all, Sundownos, though, will be able to find that kill onto Proctor, and suddenly a 4 versus 4 with a push very comfortably getting prepared and about to come onto site. Benji will go to that big window to apply the pressure to Spack. Will be able to find the kill and opens things up just a little bit with a second kill as well. Now, Magpie and Sundownos, what are you going to do? Only one of you are in Attic, and Sundownos needs to back you up now. Magpie looking for this first kill. Has to peek that breach, but you know you have to be careful. Neither of you have that much HP to work with overall compared to Luden's. And right now, Magpie's going to lose just a little bit at the Benji on the window. Time ticking down, and Luden's, they're going to start making their push, and it's going to be on their terms. Sundownos will get peeked by Gady. It's all down to Magpie in a 1 versus 4. Will not be able to get it. Gady finding a second kill. Luden's starting to wake up just that little bit, but can they keep it going? Another round on the attack, Toodles. This can be a 7-3 like you predicted.
This definitely could be. I've got to say that if it wasn't for Benji right now, Luden's wouldn't necessarily stand a chance, because the Deviants' defense, don't get me wrong, they have been absolutely stellar, but time and time again, Benji just completely outdoes everything. He is basically there each and every single moment in the right place at the right time to pick up those impact frags. If it wasn't for those 2 frags that he was able to pick up from the outer window over by dorms, the Ludens would have actually been able to effectively slice the entire bomb site in half and disperse the defense, because you saw that, and I'm pretty sure Twitch chat saw that as well. The moment that Benji got those 2 frags, the last 2 remaining defenders, Sundownos as well as Magpie, they were stuck inside of Attic. That is arguably one of the worst positions to find yourself in, because you only have effectively 1 avenue to get yourself back on the bomb site. Through that rotation into the kids' dorms, and that's about it. Luden's, they already had full control over the entire bomb site because of Benji's plays. He has been stepping up to the plate when it is desperately needed, and Luden's, they are fully reaping the rewards from his plays.
Yeah, I mean, every time we're seeing Benji do something, it is meaningful. It is thought out. It is, you're going over towards that site, you're realizing a 3v3. It's a bit of a stalemate on kitchen dining.
He just opens it up.
I'm going to be able to find his skill. Exactly. Yeah. Just walks in, is able to win these gunfights. That's what I was worried about with Luden's going up against Deviants, because Luden's have got the time, they have the experience to know exactly when something like that is going to be needed. Obviously, they've done practice in quite a lot of T4 environments, actually. You know, you can 2 quals. They participated in it. They wanted to get that practice just for Buell. Most importantly, this is a team that have gelled and really worked well together. Now, coming back to this site, a 2 on the scoreline, I want to see Kovac being able to land a couple more shots. It's a pain. I hate calling out someone's KD because it's a low blow, let's be honest, Toodles. But
it is.
If you're going to be on the roam, you need to be able to step up just that little bit more. If not, at least play a more measured role back on site. Maybe take, I don't know, maybe take the Aruni on site, or maybe take an operator that doesn't have a C4, doesn't have as much reliance in the late round. Might be an adaptation I want to see, but more importantly, for the Deviants, you gotta shut down Benji.
You do. Obviously, I'm pretty sure that the Deviants have realized that they've got to place themselves a massive, massive bullseye on the back of Benji and just deal with him as soon as humanly possible, but he has been able to persist almost each and every single round. They have only killed him twice thus far, and that was in the 2 rounds that the Deviants have won. Since then, he has been there to make those impact frags and just secure Ludens the round when it is absolutely necessary, but aside from that particular tangent, let's focus on what's happening right now. The Ludens, they have already gotten the Wolf open, that particular wall that is shared with Attic, as well as the Closet open, to which Dumfries is currently sat at the opposite end of, with the shotgun primed and ready in case of any poor soul, I should say, actually wanders into his LOS. Benji's going to open things up once again by shutting down Magpie, so those pancakes are rendered useless, and there comes Dumfries. He's right there to pick up the slack, shuts down Gady in a CQB engagements, and that puts us once again at an even playing field. That Selma charge is not big enough to actually crawl your way on through, but that's entirely fine. Spack is able to get the trade before Proctor picked up the first frag onto Dumfries. Now we're left in a 3v3 situation. 40 seconds left to go, and the Ludens, they need to make their move. It's a bit of a stalemate right now as they are waiting for an opening to push onto the bomb site itself, but a plant over by the gaming side of things might not be possible. Giobi has to pick up some other avenue to get himself on the bomb site, potentially over by the other default on the other side of kids' dorms. I'm not entirely sure right now, but it's a Mexican standoff between these two squads once again.
Yes, but time is going to force this Mexican standoff into a fray, and right now KK going to be able to find Spack was taken, but immediately you've got Sandanos ready for the refrag, but Benji, what the hell is this player on? Because I want some of it. Now it's all down to Kovac in a 1 versus 3, able to find that first kill of Giobu. Can you make it 3? We'll rotate around to that closet and say, okay, they're going to be playing ready for it. Can I get a second kill? No, I can't. KK able to win that gunfight somehow, and that hard breach line of sight nearly ruined the side of the Ludens, but they're just showing that stamina is there. 2 rounds off the bat almost immediately, and Deviants, let's show that they are not having the same stubborn performance. Let's go downstairs. That's exactly what I want to see, because Tudors, you know me too much at this point. You know, probably, I say you go to a site twice and then you change it up, because if you lose it twice and it isn't close, I don't know, by time or a trade, then, you know, you don't have the rounds to work with to go there again, get down to that bottom floor, recreate what you had before. More importantly, this upstairs hold, I really, really liked it. I looked towards the castle barricades, the mute jammers, the vigil, and the slipperiness of Soundanos. I mean, that is how I'm going to describe it. The big problem was the Ludens, they kind of fed into it a little bit too much. They went down that swamp doorway, they didn't have that meeting presence. If they get that, they can cause a lot of issues for the Deviants. Ultimately, though, I think Ludens, they're starting to hit their stride. They can get this. As long as this hatch opens up this time, by the way.
Yeah. That did really screw over Magpie last time around, so hopefully Ubisoft is going to play nice with us. I'm sure of it. Okay, maybe not. I don't know. Right. But regardless, though, Ludens, they've already been able to hit the golden number of 3 rounds, meaning that the best they can get out of this is a 4-2 split, which is in the ideal world. And naturally, the Deviants, they were able to win out this basement defense last time around, so I'm predicting that we'll see an even split moving into the second half, but realistically, anything can happen, because Benji, he has been fragging out of his brains thus far, and he shows absolutely no signs of stopping. But this is going to present an entirely different challenge that the Ludens might not have actually dealt with thus far. Deviants are actually setting up a much more heavier roam game compared to what we saw in their last defense. A lot more unpredictable positions are being played. Spack is able to find the opening frag onto Benji. Proctor takes a boatload of damage, but unable to trade anything back towards Sondanos for the time being. As we can see, KK is making his entry in towards Small Tower, but he's not going to be met with any resistance. Aside from Kovac, who's currently sat very, very comfortably inside of Kitchen, another prime position that Ludens may want to take control of in the event that they want to pressure on towards Freezer, but naturally that ended up being their death sentence last time around. Freezer might not be a viable option for the Ludens here.
Yeah, but Meething is such an important position. You need to take control of it. Sananos will have his position given away, but is able to take the head of KK and gets away scot-free. Dumfries will fall for their crimes due to Gady, but right now, we're going to see this freezer hatch open up. I don't want to see this push, because last time they stalled out heavily. I want to see meeting. You can take control of it. That's where you want to start pushing out, and that's what the whole point of this upstairs hold is to stop. You stop them getting meeting control. Magpie's able to find another kill. Oh, Kovac right in the face of Proctor. Shoves the barrel down his face and says, eat a boatload of damage. Deviants, you're set to put us on for a 3-3 split, and it's all down to Joba to make sure that that doesn't happen. 4 versus 1 though, and players hitting at the heels. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to find 1 kill or 2 Soundownos and move your way down Laundry Stairs, but very, very low HP and a lot of utility to clear.
Yeah, I don't think he can actually toss anything through that Aruni gate besides a drone of his, and at this certain point you're not really going to be droning him too much. Selma's going to do the job, but no! The Surya gate actually didn't deactivate in time, and that is a GN indeed. Oh my goodness. That is a bit heartbreaking.
He was called out. It's the literal equivalent, Tudors, of your teammate calls out Frostmats. Oh no, you call out Frostmats.
Yeah.
And you immediately jump into it the next thing you do. That's exactly the energy that had. And it sucks, but for Ludens, a 3-3 split is okay.
It's great.
But as we did talk about Tudors, these bans are leaning over towards those attackers, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. They are very, very attacker-sided, but I gotta say that the Deviants, despite the actual scoreline, they did an absolutely stellar job on their defense, specifically in that last round as well. Now, I know that we have touted Kovac as a player that may be asleep at the wheel, at the very least for the start of this particular matchup, and before I even continue on, how did Sundanos hit this? That is absolutely redonkulous. You did not have to BMKK that much, but there's the play that I wanted to talk about from Kovac. Not the kill itself, but the fact that he actually gave up Kitchen as free territory, because keep in mind, at some certain point throughout the entire round, the Ludens had realized that Kitchen was basically up for grabs despite the heavy utility that the Deviants committed to that portion of the map. We saw that Gioba was able to waltz his way in to security, through the Kitchen rotate, and blow open the hatch. Why was Kitchen even actually free territory? Because Kovac purposely allowed Ludens to claim it. But he wasn't too far away from it either. He was just a couple meters away inside of the adjoining corridor. And then when the moment was right, he waltzed his way back in, he struck, and just like that, he was rewarded with a kill. One that could have been round-defining as well. I think it actually was a round-defining kill. It effectively set Deviants up for success in that 4v1 situation. So the fact that Deviants are well accustomed to these attacker-sided bans, it speaks volumes. And what does speak volumes is losing out on one of your 2 hard breachers to a spawn peak. Good stuff, Ludens. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of rough, I will not lie. I've got to be honest, I look at this, I say, well, that TK, you lose that Habana immediately, but you still have the ace, you still have something to work with. A TK will come out to even things out, Proctor getting 2 kills to start off with, actually. And going back to your point, Toodles, you say it's the end, but no, I think it's like the final nail in the coffin, to be honest. Joby, though, is going to get naded out, but the ADS is going to do a little bit of work on overtime. Benji able to find those kills, and the second frag grenade will follow. Sundownos finds the kill, and gets that early advantage in for the Deviants. Big problem now is that Deviants still have to push the side. They haven't done a lot of the big port parts that you need to do, although that is happening now. Utility is getting cleared out, ADS is being taken off the board, games will being opened up, and Benji's gonna leave to try and get those skins off, but that's not really important. What is that half the round, and Deviants have a player advantage. More importantly, they have games will open. They know that Deviants, they only have a limited number of angles that they can cover, and Sandanos triggering that Banshee on white means they need to worry about one more 2 doors.
Yep.
The tension, you can cut it with a knife at this point, and right now 2 players towards Attic for Ludens is kind of worrying at this point. Gatey's gonna swing, takes a little bit of damage, doesn't give much in return either, but Magpie's gonna be there. Player on white stairs, Sandanos gonna add to this pressure, and a minute left, it's gonna be all guns blazing.
It indeed is. The Ludens, they find themselves in a very precarious position, and KK, he may soon not be long for this world anymore. He is able to actually take out Kovac at the bottom of white, so the Ludens, they may stand a winning chance right here, but being able to disable that plant is a big worry on their side. They don't have, actually they do have a C4 courtesy of Gate. They could stop a plant regardless as to where it's tossed out, but that is a crucial gunfight that KK wished he hadn't lost. Trades come on out, and it's a sea of blue working in the favor of the Deviants, but no, the defuse is actually dropped inside of Wolf, and now it's down to Sondanos to pick up the pieces, and specifically pick up that defuse as well, to try to set this execution into motion. There is time, but it's starting to expire rather rapidly, and the fact that they don't know where Proctor is, it's a massive unknown, and just like that, we have 5 seconds left. Sondanos, he's hunting for the frag, but he can't secure it. Proctor, he goes huge. He's able to buy it himself just as much time as he needed, seals the deal, the nail to the coffin, and just like that, we have the Ludens, after having lost the player to a DC, are able to clutch up big time to secure their first defense.
Yeah, very nice kill, and more importantly, Proctor very nicely played, being able to catch that diffuser trophy. Won the round, simply put. You didn't confirm the kill, but you didn't need to. I mean, nope. Sandanos was in a position where that round was won, no matter how Proctor played it. As long as Proctor survived, round was over. Sandanos couldn't get diffuser. You could just wait, even if he could. You take the gunfight, the HP, it's so heavily stacked in your favor. Deviants lost the round as soon as Dumfries got downed, unfortunately enough to say, but that's exactly what it is. We're returning to this bottom floor, but this time Ludens on the defense. They're going to want to bring something similar. I mean, with the Ludens, they've got the Goyo, they have the ADSs and a Wamai. I expect to see a bit more of a default setup for this rather than what the Deviants wanted to bring to the table, and I can't fault them. No. I've really enjoyed seeing the Deviant setup so far, the way that they've played around each other. It's very well thought out, it's very well planned with how they're meant to be playing it, and the positioning is something they've definitely been working on. I feel like Kovac, in the last couple of rounds in your defense, I was quite pleased with that. I just need to see a little bit more of it. I mean, it's not that much to ask. I just want to see a bit like cutoffs for roamers. I want to see if you go mini tower. I want to see a player on white. I want to see a player pushing, and it's just little bits of coordination. I feel like Deviants, if they can nail it down, they can pick up these rounds. And Spag, gonna start things off. This will be an example of what I mean. Get a player over by the swamp door. Get a player ready to push them out on top. That's gonna be Kovac, and the drones will lead the way. Big problem, though, is the final part of the puzzle. You need to be able to land these shots, and Kovac leading in hasn't had the best luck of it so far. Gady will be backing off back to site and realizing this isn't the hill to die on, Tudors.
No,
this is not where. This isn't what we want to do. We pull back. We wait with Proctor. You know they're committing very heavily towards the big tower, so you play together, and you're Benji in meeting, ready, dare I say, to strike.
He has been droned out, and just like that, he will be taken out of commission. A lovely little, I think it may have been a wall bang. I'm not sure that the stage wall actually had a breach or even a punch hole. Not exactly sure, but regardless, lovely shot on the side of Spac. Oh yeah, there was a hole. Okay, yeah. So maybe not as spectacular, but still a spectacular kill that actually nabs Deviants the man advantage. And now they can properly get to work. They've got their wallet, they've got their keys. Time to go ahead and do your job. It's a work their way in through bunker, surprisingly. They do have an extra hurdle to deal with, and that is going to be Giobu. He is tucked inside of elbow quite deeply. Two Selmas miss, but they can actually be picked up, so no harm, no foul. But, Giobu, just a tad bit too greedy, is going to lose his life at the hands of Kovac, and just like that, the man advantage now grows to 2 whole members. It's down to Proctor, Gady, and KK to fortify the entire bomb site on their lonesome. Pillar control has yet to be nabbed, and look at this long angle being exhibited by Proctor. This could potentially land him a kill, but he's going to start burning alive, and that is just a classic old case of cyberbullying. Sondanos, he's good for the double, and Kovac is going to chime on in with his final frag to close off this particular round in the favor of Ludens, and just like that, or in the favor of Deviants, excuse me, and just like that, they are able to keep the Ludens in check as they tie up the score line 4 rounds apiece.
What a well-played round from Deviants there. That was coordinated, that was organized, it was strategic. The roam clear, really well played. I mean, they had the presence meeting, they had a player towards kitchen, they had the information, and they found the kill. They made Benji make that decision. Where are you going to look? Either way, you're going to get shot in the side of the head from somewhere. You just get to choose where from, essentially, or if you could get a kill back. But as soon as that happened, it's big tower, it's all hands on station. They realized Ludens might get aggressive. They might try and take these gunfights. It's exactly what happened. They beat them out. And then they came pushing through. The utility committed to that pillar's clearance, beautiful. I absolutely loved that. There were 2 Goyo shields, there was flashbangs going through. Proctor, you genuinely hate to be in that position because you have flashbangs flying at you. You know the Goyo shields have popped because that happened just before you got blinded. You try and run away, but you're blind, and B, Sandanos is right there to finish you off after getting a frag grenade kill. Suddenly, it's just Deviants realizing that they have so many advantages. They can pile it on over Ludens. They can win that fight. And Benji, a very interesting adaptation there, but it makes a lot of sense on that last round. The big problem for me, though, Deviants might be expecting it. They might be ready. For me, personally, I want to see you going over towards that kid side, over towards Attic. Have Attic hatch open, so you can apply that pressure from the vertical. You tell them, you've got to clear a whole other room. You got to clear a whole other floor, even. You don't just get control of meeting like that. However, Deviants, how are they going to approach it?
It's definitely a possibility for Ludens to commit a lot of their resources elsewhere and try to extend their roam even further, but they might not be well trained and equipped to actually do so. It's a heavy commitment, and if Deviants so much as spot a single chink in the armor, well, there goes your entire strategy if Ludens can actually respond in rapid time. But that may be all saved for another moment later as Oregon continues to progress. Gady, he's not going to dance with the devil this time around, quickly scampering down to Harry Potter to keep his life in tow because it's an important one at that. That P10 Roni in the right arms can be a very menacing weapon to go up against, and as you can see, meeting has been entirely vacated by the Ludens. Benji, not exactly sure where he is located right now, but he is not going to fight fire with fire because there's simply too much of it in the hands of Deviants. We've already expended almost 70 to 80 seconds of the clock thus far, and Benji, he's flirting with the idea of actually going back up the freezer staircase to potentially mount a flank. Could happen, but he's going to choose to linger back down there. On the other side of things, Deviants, they have since then actually turned their attention back towards this bunker portion of the map, and they're looking to clear out Giobu. He's not going to make the same mistake as last time and quickly peek that because he got greedy, and he paid a very costly price for doing so. He's going to quickly rotate on out and patch up that rotation. So, still an even man count. All 10 players are alive and kicking as there are 65 seconds left to work with.
Yeah, Benji is going to go up those stairs. I'm calling it now. Big benefit from him is knowing when to strike. And right now, if you can catch him off guard, if you can get Spack, get control of that hatch, you shut everything down. Kovac's going to move through, clear out that elbow, realize, yep, it's reinforced. What did you expect at this point? But 45 seconds on the clock there. There's a mid jammer. They need to get that Thatcher there, but there are no EMPs left. That elbow is going to remain soft. This is a problem. Deviants now, they only have 2 ways to push through. They need to call over that support. Sundanos, a smoke canister will go off and do that passive damage. And 30 seconds left. We're looking at Deviants start to stall out in this one little area. Okay, Jobu might have a massive impact in it as will Proctor holding the pixel. Jones will lead in and give that information. Damage will be done on Sandanos. 15 seconds left. Magpie's gonna get down. Sandanos has to follow, but KK with the frag is able to get it. Proctor on the swing, looks for the kill. Not able to get it actually. Dumfries pushes through. Oh, Benji and Gady are cleaning up. KK getting another one. And Giobu's smoke canister filled it. It finishes them off. Fills their lungs with smoke, and more importantly, it puts an end on a calamity of a round.
Yeah, I think that's one thing to call it, probably. I think it's probably a better bet to use the word an absolute massacre.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, first of all, Tudors, how are you doing today?
After seeing that, really confident in the Ludens thus far. But aside from the match, I'm doing very fine. Thanks for asking.
Okay, because I'm a little ill, I have to be honest. I've got a bit of a cold, but
I've
been having a lot of fun. We've been pushing through, and more importantly, right now, Deviants have been able to keep it toe to toe. But that last round was a bit of a mess. It was a massacre in that late round. I feel like they fell for the oldest trick in the book.
I think that's one way to put it,
They all walked in the same door. I mean, a little bit of highway pressure would have helped, I don't think it would have saved the round. I feel like having maybe like a laundry presence or freezer, that definitely would have had a lot more impact. Because all of Ludens were looking towards this one position that the Deviants were in. They had the crossfires set up. They had more than enough time thanks to the smoke canisters of Jobu.
Yeah.
I feel like just having a little bit more room to play with when it comes to that roam. Getting more lines of sight available, getting that pressure, just make them feel uncomfortable. Don't let them have the opportunity to put 2 players freezer, 2 players on kill box, and well,
the technical problem stems from one very, very crucial factor, and that was Deviants' mismanagement with their utility. At least that's what I'm banking on. We saw that Elbow was patched up by Giobu when he couldn't take the heat anymore, so he got out of the kitchen, and that's completely fine. Played by the book if you desperately need the win. But there was a Mute Jammer on the opposite end of it. And Deviants, they didn't have any more EMPs to work with. If they had one extra EMP to work with, then you could have opened up Elbow and create that much more space, and Gady wouldn't have been able to get that crucial impact frag to shut down Dumfries or whoever was carrying the diffuser at that time. If Deviants only had an extra EMP to work with, I would have definitely seen them taking that round. You can completely ignore Highway. You can basically just keep one player over that pillar to essentially lock down that entire lane. But getting Elbow open would have been crucial, and it simply didn't happen. But we're going to put that entire round to rest as Proctor once again is going absolutely massive, picking up impact frags left, right, and center, and more importantly so, he's always there to get the first one onto SPAC for the second time in this second half thus far. Luckily enough, they do have Dumfries to get that attic breach open, but with 2 Selmas left and those Hibanas already being stuck, without being detonated on that attic wall, you're going to have to rotate him over, and that costs a bit of time which the Deviants do not have. KK strikes, shutting down Sandanas, but Dumfries is going to clap back with one of his own, setting us in a 4v3 scenario. 80 seconds left to go. And Armory, hello, something that I haven't seen in a long time is Armory presence. So now that's an extra headache that the Deviants have to deal with. How are you going to deal with Proctor? I'm not sure just yet.
Proctor always being a pain in the backside, and Benji's here to help out. Proctor's very low HP, but Benji can go down below. Proctor will fall, and so will Benji to go back in a 3 versus 2, but 50 seconds are left. You know where these attackers are coming from, and, well, right now, it's all down to Ludens looking towards these 2 crucial key positions yet again. The shield means that you're going to use that soft destruction. These Aruna gates have just got a lot harder to open up. Now, Dumfries playing through that breach can jump in, but you know there's most likely a crossfire. You need to coordinate utility, you need to coordinate the push, but there's a dire lack of smokes, a dire lack of flashbangs on the board, and Dumfries gonna be taken away by KK, who's able to find a second. Kovac will have an answer, but in a 1 versus 1. 1 HP in 15 seconds with no diffuser against the smoke. 2 doors. This round is as good as over. Ludens, they're going to be 1 bullet away from match point, and there it is. Giobu, beautifully well played. KK, incredible usage of that MP5K just to get you back in the fight. And Deviants, how can we change this? What's going wrong? I mean, you've beaten the predictions so far, but now you're starting to stall out a little bit when it comes down to the late round.
Indeed they are. I'm not exactly sure what can be done. I think potentially the Deviants, they might just be too accustomed to the meta of old from a couple of months back when Ace still had his smoke grenades. Just imagine if they had Thermite on the board, you could have easily gotten that game breach, that closet breach open, but then you would have also had smoke grenades to block LOS, and then you wouldn't have lost the 2 players that charged on it. It's a possibility. It might just be the fact that Deviants are more accustomed to playing Ace, but that's just my 2 cents. Bring out a Thatcher because he does what Ace can do, but better because he has those smoke grenades. It's something that I'm going to keep on touting, but I fear that I might be barking at the wrong tree. Regardless, though, they were able to deal with the roam presence, though, quite exemplary, and it is a bit unfortunate that Benji wasn't able to land those shots down by the main door. If he did, entirely different story, and the Deviants would have still lost out that round, but much, much more rapidly. And the fact that Proctor also wasn't able to keep his life into instead of Armory was a bit shocking, but regardless, they had people such as Gady and Giobu to pick up the slack when all hope seemed lost on their side. But now comes a real shot for the Deviants to potentially force us all the way to the last round of regulation. This is the first time that the Ludens are visiting a tertiary bomb site. We're moving on to kitchen and dining. And technically speaking, this is, as I said, the Deviants' best shot at forcing us all the way to round number 12. If they don't succeed here, that's the end of the story. And Ludens, they claim 3 points and they claim their first spot in the leaderboard.
Yes, and well, it might be well deserved after this game, depending on how this round goes, really. I mean, I feel like Deviants, they need to be ready for these early gunfights. It's something I said maybe you should bring to Ludens, but it's not working out. I mean, we saw SPAC being taken off the board before the utility had even gone off. I mean, something is going wrong. There is some misdroning, or there is somebody not covering an angle. You need to tighten up. Right now, you're letting Ludens take control of the pace of the game. And while Proctor will be drawn out, obviously, towards this statue door, you've got Benji here to cause some shenanigans. Will not land that much damage, and Kovac will be able to support SPAC as this game's ball will get open. Or this kid's ball, sorry. The big thing is, though, the player's already dropped. Benji is there to put some damage on, will tag out Sandanos and realizes, well, I'm probably playing my life here, but that's fine. Because I'm going to land these shots. We'll be able to find Dumfries. Looks for a second kill. Gets Magpie. Oh, can you get any more? Make it a third. Why not? Not going to happen, though. That frag grenade will bounce over and find the kill. You could have done that a little earlier. Saved Magpie, but, well, better late than never. Deviants have control of Kid's dorms.
Indeed, they do. Sooner or later, they're going to confirm the kill onto Benji. SPAC took his sweet old time with that, but it's fine. They've got plenty of time to spare. SPAC is actually going to be taken out of commission, but can be revived back to 20 HP. And the Ludens, they still firmly hold on to basically the entire map, excluding the top floor with an iron grasp. And sooner or later, Deviants are going to have to shift their attention, and they might not have the resources to fully commit to it. Everyone on the side of Ludens, they've actually shifted back towards Showers and closer towards Small Tower, essentially turning the bomb site itself into a kill box, because the Deviants, they didn't even bat an eye towards Small Tower at all whatsoever. As you can see, that kitchen wall, it's entirely opened up, providing oh so many lovely angles for the Ludens to exploit. Now Sandanos, rotating his way to God knows where, is potentially looking to entry in through that kitchen doorway, but naturally that is an exposed position. Both Proctor and Gady have got that doorway on lock. As you can see, Sandanos, as I stated, is walking into a kill box. The Deviants, they are in for a very, very rude awakening. A nasty surprise as Kovac is going to join suit. Okay. Gemini Replicator just randomly disappeared, but sure. A full stack outside a kitchen doorway. SPAC, you need to find a safe spot to plant that diffuser as Sandanos is creeping and crawling his way on in, but Gady, he's gonna make that all to sing the first song, and just like that, SPAC is gone. Gady, he's able to pick up Sandanos as well, and is down to Kovac. Diffuser not even in arms, and Gady, he is going to close it off with a triple kill. It may not have an ACOG, but hey, it gets the job done regardless. The Ludens, they're able to take the dub, full 3 points in just 11 rounds of play of Oregon, and just like that, they have propelled themselves up to that first spot, 6 whole points to their name. It was an absolutely exemplary performance on their end, but it could have been a much closer affair if the Deviants would have been able to pull themselves together when it was desperately needed.
I'm going to give Deviants a lot of credit here. Now, obviously, they took one more round than we expected, but more importantly, they played a lot closer game. I mean, there were a few little things, it was little basics that make a lot of sense when you're playing a first to 7 game, when you're trying to keep playing consistently well and consistently better than Ludens. I mean, you're looking at these opening kills. I think Proctor in the round before that, definitely a big, big impact. You look at that frag, taking away that hard breach. Well, Deviants, they're not going to rotate around. They commit one player there, they're dead. Then suddenly the precedent is set for the whole round. It's going to be a white stairs push if you can get that. Otherwise, it's just going to be trophy games. But the big thing is that last round, Gady, you didn't even need to pop off with the ulti. You just did it for star points.
He did.
Still had those yokais. You still had the drones. You still had that player advantage. That round was very, very much won by Benji up above with that Jaeger. And I've got to say that was where a lot of the issues started to lie, was these opening gunfights. The roaming, the roam clearance, more importantly, for the side of Deviants was a bit of an issue.
It was.
But, I mean, it's Playday 2.
It's Playday 2. There's still plenty of time to learn.
Yeah.
There is.
They've got a lot of time to take control of this, look at this and move forward and say, okay, our roam clearance is a bit of an issue, or maybe our early droning. maybe how we position ourselves towards the end of the round, that might need a little bit of work.
Yeah.
On the flip side, though, they had some good execution, some very nice defensive setups, and
Yeah,
would like
defense,
to see again.
Yeah.
I'd like to see how they adapt with it, how they use it in the future. Unfortunately, though, with autoban, it's going to be a little bit of time. But I feel like there's a lot of positives there that they can take away from this.
Certainly,
on the side of Ludens, though, that's 3 points secured. That's them taking that first place spot. And I'm not going to say comfortably, but they weren't exactly on the back foot, it feels
No,
like.
they weren't. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Deviants certainly gave them a run for their money, and to add on to what you were saying, I really, really love the Deviants' overall defenses, regardless of that 3-3 split in the first half. I think the Deviants did a really, really exemplary job. They showed a lot of really, really great innovation, and just overall, I think... I got my finger on a word. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I actually can't seem to locate it. I don't want to say signs of life. I want to say
Zamboni.
What? No, not Zamboni. No.
Then what's the point of even saying it then?
No, I was thinking like sparks of brilliance, I want to say, on the side of Deviants' defense. I think that's as close as I can actually get to it. Because of the fact that they realized that they were up against a team like the Ludens, who, by the way, are just an absolute machine and an absolute unit. The Ludens, they clearly exhibited that today. And the Deviants knew exactly what they were up against. They can't necessarily play by the book on their defense, and they absolutely didn't. They kept their opponents on their toes. They kept the Ludens guessing at each and every single corner that they turned. We saw that the Deviants, they were trying to remain as unpredictable as possible, and they were certainly able to accomplish that as well. But when it came to the attacks, that's when we saw a lot of wrinkles. I think the Ludens, they just had a much, much higher caliber, and specifically Benji as well. When you're trying to clear out that top floor and you suddenly lock horns with someone such as Benji, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be losing those gunfights, and it's a really, really rough position to find yourself in, especially when he is tucked in a corner and he only has a single angle to watch and you can't properly pinch him out.
Yeah, I mean, Benji was a very, very important part in that game, I feel. Definitely incredible game sense to look at exactly what was happening and say, this is the moment I want to strike. I feel like there were a couple of opportunities that I would have personally gone for a move, but they didn't. So, you know, it's up to them at that point. You know, I mean, it worked. They still won 7-4. The rounds in which I said, oh, I would have done this, well, they still won anyway. And I think that says a lot about the team itself. And they can, both teams can move forward with their head held high.
They can.
Lockdown Ludens, or just Ludens now, they are very comfortable. They're very dominant. They're at the top of the leaderboard. Whereas Deviants, they've shown a good performance. They put themselves in... You don't really want to take them to Oregon now if you've been watching this game. You look at it and you say, okay, we might need some time before we take them here. So I feel like they've given a good display for themselves. It just takes a little bit of work to refine it a little bit. And then they should be in a really good position. Definitely mid-table, I think. But before we move on any further, Two Doors, we do have a second game. Before we start thinking about Playday week 3 or week 4 or playoffs or whatever, we have another game up, don't we?
Indeed we do. Next up, after this short little break, is going to be Team 9 going up against the Frogs. So, that is going to be our last match, our conclusion to week number 2 of Bull Season 3. But naturally, like I said, we are going to take 5 minutes before we bring you the action between our last match. So, don't go anywhere, or do if you want to grab yourself a snack or a beverage. But regardless, we will see you guys back here in just a short couple of minutes, so stay tuned. Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. In case if you guys are just tuning in, let's quickly recap the events of our first matchup of Tuesday Night Bool. We had Deviants going up against Lockdown Ludens, and it was a relatively close affair, but the Ludens, they were able to claim a dub 7-4 on Oregon. Now, we're going to be taking a look at our final match of Week 2. Right up, we have got Team 9 going up against Man I Love Frogs. Currently, the Frogs, they are sat with 3 points, and they also have a real shot at getting themselves all the way up to first position, depending on how the scoreline goes. So let's quickly do some maths and see if it's entirely possible. The Lockdown Ludens, because of their win, they now have a +6 round differential. This technically means that in order for the Frogs to leapfrog them, no pun intended, all the way to first, they have got to win out their matchup against Team 9 with a score line of 7-3 or lower. Ideally flawless, and then they will be sat on pole position. And going up against Team 9, who is currently bottom of the barrel, this is a real shot. I definitely think, and you already stated this before we went live, Creedy, that we're likely going to be backing up the Frogs on this one.
Yeah, just a little bit. I think I talked about this last week as well with Jerry, but one of the players on Frogs might have been on my uni team in the last year, David Bob 32. I do love to see him playing, but more importantly, I know you said you played Devil's Advocate, but no, that's not what we're here with.
No.
You know, but I'm putting my bias aside. I'm saying, man, I love Frogs. Last week they had a rough start, but they were able to bring it back. I feel like they played it very well. Their stamina is very good for a team that's in this position so far. And I feel like earlier in the last week they had an easier time because they weren't playing a pre-established team. They were playing a team that actually hadn't played before. So I feel like they are in a comfortable position, but they still... I feel like there's still a lot of things that can go wrong. Team 9, I know you covered them as well last week on Tuesday night. Or you said Tuesday Night Bool. I mean, it feels very much like Friday Night Fight Night.
Kind of like Friday Night Fight Night or Monday Night Raw and Tuesday Night SmackDown, but obviously we're stealing WWE's viewership because Badass is more important.
Obviously, I mean,
yeah.
Why wouldn't it be? Simply put. Now, these two teams, I feel like it's gonna be a nice matchup. Yet again, there's still the new rosters coming in. I mean, I'd love to see one of these teams take the approach that Deviant has and have strategies prepared, have off strats, pocket strats, just something, realizing that you need to keep the other team on their toes, so default strats aren't going to cut it. That's what I want to see. I mean, last time we saw the Frogs, they were playing on Oregon, so we're at least not going to go there again, Tudors. So
no, we won't.
You know, you gotta thank the Lord for small mercies, but the big question is, where are we gonna be going?
I really don't know. How about we go and find up Noah, if you will. Please pull up the map band so we can go ahead and walk those through. Naturally, both squads, they played Oregon last week, so we shan't be returning to it whatsoever. Consulate is going to be our next auto ban. The next two that are going to be rolling on in, those are Clubhouse and Villa. So Chalet is still on the table, and the same thing goes for, Coastline. I hope it's Coastline. I genuinely hope we're going to be going to Coastline, but Cafe is also a real possibility. So as the next two ones start rolling on in, we will finally get to see exactly what it's going to be. Indeed, it's Cafe. Man, I love Frogs. You guys have utterly disappointed me by choosing Coastline as your last band. They obviously had the last word in it, so off to Moscow we shall go for this best of one series.
I'm gonna have a few words with the Frogs IGL at this point. You know, you didn't give me Coastline, so I'm gonna have to send the boys around later at some point. I kid.
Words will be had.
Words will be had. There will be a strict regime of like curfews imposed. You know, they're gonna be tea hunting on Coastline religiously. You know, they're only allowed to play it. So Tudors, I feel like that's a suitable punishment. But Kaf Dostoyevsky, we can't change where we're going. That's the map we're going to head to. It's very heavily defender-sided, so Team 9, if they can take that defense, they can dictate a lot of this pace, can't they?
Indeed they can, and Team 9, they are serving on the defense, that is correct indeed. Naturally, going up against the Frogs, they did prove to be a very adamant force to be reckoned with in week number 1. And with them starting off on the attack, I feel as if they have the opportunity to throw a lot of curveballs depending on how the actual operator bans go. Naturally, if we were to start comparing and contrasting this particular matchup, and just hypothetically speaking, comparing and contrasting it with the one that we just saw, Deviants versus Ludens, that one had very, very, well, heavily attacker-sided bans. It should have been an attacker-sided affair, and for the majority of the part, it proved to be so as well, especially with the Ludens just exhibiting nothing but dominance on their attacking half as well. And I suspect that Frogs will be able to do the exact same thing in the event that, let's say, Thatcher, for example, is able to slip through the ban phase. We are going to be starting and hopping on this pony and getting into the game in just a couple of short minutes. So there isn't actually much left to discuss because a lot of what we are going to be seeing, or technically there is a lot of unknown factors. I saw you raise your hand, Creedy.
Yes.
You may speak.
How many games are on the back of your, or on your cupboards?
How many games? Far too many for me to count.
Have you ever counted? No.
No, I've got a wide collection of Xbox 360 games.
Right.
That's like it's primarily Xbox 360 games. I've got some Nintendo DS games, practically every single Pokemon. I've got some PSP games, a lot of Star Wars ones from that. I've naturally got. Huh?
Doodles, you know what I want to do? If we have a timeout or anything, right? You better pray that isn't a timeout. But we're gonna have like an auction with it, you know? You know, let's have some fun with it because the operator bans, they're not exactly.
They're not worth discussing
right now. You know, you got a Thatcher on the board, and that makes a lot of sense. You got a Flores coming through, and you think about Flores jumping through Skylight, the amount of utility he can clear. It's a lot of work. Now, obviously, Maverick is on the board, but it's a lot harder to use it effectively because it's like Villa, but not to the same degree. It's a place where if you want to use a Maverick, you've got to commit to a very, very uncomfortable position to be in, and there's a lot of other workarounds that you can use that just save a lot of time. The Valkyrie will be taken away, and the Cade is still on the board.
Now the question is, who's going to be the last ban? Mira or... No, I thought it was going to be either Mira or Kaid, but no, it's actually the Goyo, which is relatively interesting. I'm pretty sure that the Frogs, they might just not want to deal with a potential extended hold inside of bathroom and freezer, because naturally that is a possibility. If you just open up a couple of kill holes inside of freezer / bathroom, you put deployable shields behind there, and then boom, you hold on to piano even longer, regardless as to if you're visiting the top floor or even reading for that matter. But I am happy that Mira is going to make it through the ban phase, and Mali is going to be donning my favorite Spanish lady, so I'm really, really curious to see exactly how Team 9 are going to utilize those black mirrors. Aside from that, what other interesting things can we nitpick at? The Zero pick that is being brought up by Heizo is definitely something worth discussing.
I mean, I want to go back to that Goyo pick, the Goyo band, sorry, it's just giving me a lot of PTSD. Obviously, it's league that I've casted in, Paragon, that team, in this season when they had that wonder run through the playoffs of a certain league that we both cast, their calf was criminal. I mean, you had Dilly with the ACS on Maestro. You had your Jaeger. You had a Goyo in bathroom and freezer. Obviously, without the Goyo shields, you don't have that power. But you have got the mirror, which you can use in a very similar way. This means that you can still open up that line of sight, but you can't play it as aggressively. You don't have that same degree of cover, so you can't really play in freezer. But it frees up a lot of other things. I mean, you look at your ADSs, maybe put the bathroom, maybe over towards Pillar itself. And obviously, yes, we do need to talk about this Zero pick. This is a very important pick. I mean, a lot of people already probably have talked about it quite a bit. I feel like one argument I never considered was Kemsing in Yukin 2 when he was talking about you can use these to burn ADSs.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
I had to disagree with him because I didn't think that was the most important use.
I think it's important now.
It is important, but not anymore, because Nomad is on the board and will be brought, but Zero does act in that role. You do need to commit someone watching it, but 3 air jabs, and Kaf Dostoyevsky is a map where the defenders have a lot of control, a lot of freedom of movement. They control the pace, like I said, and if you can shut that down as an attacking team, you're pretty much onto a winner.
Potentially. We can see that Heisel's are going to toss out his first SAM cam to potentially gather a tad bit of info, but given the architecture of this top floor, wherever you actually shoot out a SAM cam, it is likely to be shot out in just a couple. What is going on with that? Okay, sure. Haven't seen that before, but hello. Interesting.
I'd like to thank the Frogs for breaking Rainbow Six Siege, a notoriously well put together game. And, well... Wow, really? You thought I was joking? No, here's what I'm talking about. David Bob can get to work with putting the more B-Tech, I don't say that, the more normal air jabs down. Your red stairs, you know, make sure they don't push you. You're putting down those type of air jabs. But with the zero cameras, you're able to actually get the information in these positions as well. Put one in pixel, it's a very tough angle to spot.
Yeah.
You can see these players. You can distract them maybe. But right now, Team 9, they're going to have to be defending this pixel position, aren't they?
Indeed they are. There isn't any deployable shield, and Pixel has already been vacated. iNoob was taking up the mounts on that particular portion of the map. James is going to take a tiny bit of damage, but not enough to put him 6 feet under just yet. And now, what's the next step going to be for the Frogs? Potentially breaching over by the restroom, or just quickly snake crawling their way towards the freezer, because, yeah, that mirror window is something difficult to deal with. And iNoob is going to be kicking himself because you cannot deal with a sneaky little snake such as Haza. That is the first frag already in the back pocket of Team 9, and the second one is soon to follow. Make it a third, as TXC is just going absolute... He's just having an absolute field day thus far as he takes out Farsha, and that leaves just Reich all on his lonesome as Heizo has now been taken out of commission, and this is an utter collapse. That AUG is going to sing, it's going to find one frag, but that's all that Reich is going to be able to accomplish. Here comes the Nomad, or excuse me, the Nomad. I thought it was the Yana. But regardless, that is the Frogs finding their first round thus far, and I believe we are going to have a small little pause/reset to see if we can get that weird text of code off our screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit jarring. It might have distracted us a little bit. Not too much to us, because clearly we're professionals and didn't mention it at all, but a big thing for me looking at that round was, it was looking at these players just saying, okay, right, we're going to play it low, we're going to get prone. This mirror window is very powerful, but they can't deal with something they can't see from that angle, so you go prone, you deal with that player. You find the Jaeger. That opens up everything. You go towards Pixel, you go over to, you have control over White, you can start applying pressure there, you can take Bathroom, you can open up Car. From there, things just start to fall apart for the defenders, and honestly, I look to see Reich and Forshaw as being really, really good with their chemistry and really fluid together. That's because they played in the season of Yukon 2 before this one with each other. They were on that Newell team, and obviously Reich stuck around. I expect them to be able to work together in such a dominating way that obviously one round that doesn't sum up the entire game, but what did happen was a very, very nicely coordinated push coming out from the Frogs. They knew what they wanted to achieve, they played for refrags, but they didn't really need it. I mean, they put the pressure on White, then they had to play it down Cocktail. They were able to put so much pressure on the defense that they just weren't able to really get anything tangible back.
No, I seem to have dropped my pen, so I'm going to quickly...
Shocking behavior. Toodles is gone, everybody. Only Creedy remains. Never mind, he's back.
The one thing that I actually do want to say is... on the side of the Frogs, it was an absolute 5-head play, and I cannot stress this enough for Haza to just creep and crawl his way through towards the couches through piano. What is an even bigger 5-head play is to just open up more of the freezer wall as a mirror, because imagine if that lower portion was also open, you wouldn't have been able to actually, you know, die to somebody that is sneaking his way on through. It's quite hilarious the more you actually start to think about it, and it's something that I may start to bring up more and more as this series progresses onwards. But still, that was absolute utter dominance on the side of the Frogs, and I'm starting to question exactly what Team 9 could have done differently. Naturally, they brought out a lot of operators, 2 catchers plus the Aruni as well, so they can just soak up as much utility as possible. But one thing that we didn't actually see, if I'm not mistaken, was a shield over by Pixel. And that position was vacated relatively early on the side of Team 9, and imagine if they had somebody actually stood there, just basically equipped to the tooth, with ADSs and Wamai pancakes. It could have been an entirely different story, and Frogs wouldn't have been able to actually see the exact same level of success that they did inside a piano, but that's all hypotheticals, and it could potentially be in an alternate reality altogether. Team 9, they're not willing to revisit that top floor just yet. Instead, we're going to be shifting gears and moving down below into the kitchen.
Yes, but I am going to revisit it just a little bit. I know you say maybe put a player Pixel, and I kind of want to stress test that a little bit.
Yeah.
If they're just standing there, well, they're subject. Obviously, they have a lot of utility, but you go back into a normal Pixel position. If you're looking at Frogs proning in that little angle, you're gonna have been flushed out already. You're gonna have lost quite a lot of that utility to protect you, and you probably would have fallen back to that bathroom area. I feel like that was just, they just skipped a step, in my opinion. And obviously, there wasn't much Team 9 could have done with the mirror windows. You could have opened up the bottom angle, the footholes, but then you lose a lot of line of sight, which kind of negates the point of bringing the mirror. If you had that close shield, yeah, you could play the foot angles, you could play prone, the vector. Very difficult to counter, but with the mirror, you're left with an option. Do you have the head height or the foot height? If you take the head height, you're able to take the line of sight, but you saw exactly what happened. And I feel like it's a case of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Frogs are just going to read into whatever happens and just play the opposite of that. But we are going to see a classic El Clasico even for this site. It's that hatch being bugged. The buck can't open it, and unfortunately, Frogs are going to have to waste some of that soft breach to get inside and start this room clear. Tichi going to be leading the way, but without using the Gemini even. Kind of a little bit brave, but after that last round, I mean, can you blame him? He is also being hot drugged in as well.
The mind games are real. If and only if Team 9 would have actually locked horns with Tichi right over here, they would have been in for a very rude awakening, because that is not a hologram, that is the real deal itself. Regardless, though, the Frogs, they are starting to clear out the top floor in rapid time for the time being, and they're soon going to be able to take control of train and start exerting some vertical pressure as we are about to surpass the halfway mark of this round. So Team 9, they're allowed to sit comfortably, except what is that I caught in the corner of my eye? A player that's stuck over by pillars? That has the potential to actually be a really, really big nuisance to deal with if Frogs don't pick up on it. Inoob, he is remaining elusive. Just an unknown factor for the time being, and now he's on the prowl, but he doesn't actually win the gunfight against Bob. He loses his life. The one defining factor that could have been the silver bullet for Team 9 has just been taken out of commission.
Yes, David Bob able to find that kill. Good use of the flank drones, and honestly, that was worrying for me. I knew we had a real opportunity to shut down a lot of the benefits, but David Bob's going to be able to find a second kill coming down these brown stairs, and Tichi gets rid of that Surya gate, but oh my lord, no! For sure's got on up top. Lanina, she's able to kill James and will start to open things up. Now, Mally, he's all on his own on site. 30 seconds left, you've got to stay alive. Don't peek the vertical, don't contest it, stay alive, and be a problem for the attackers who are starting to take control of the site. For sure's able to try and retake that to vertical play. We'll find Lanina, and now a 2 versus 4. 20 seconds left in vertical control in favor of the defense. This is winnable, but there are a lot of things that have to go right. More importantly, Heizo has to be able to find that kill. Will be able to do it. For sure drops, and Hazo will be able to pick them off. That was so close. But at the end of the day, it came down to just not having enough players for the defense.
That's entirely true. It was nothing but an absolute stompage on the side of the Frogs. They were able to pick out Inoob without even so much as actually, you know, they barely even have to actually lift a finger to pick out Inoob. I think they didn't have any information. They just happened to be watching that particular angle over by pillars, and just like that, Inoob was down in the dirt. And courtesy of David Bob, he basically threw caution to the wind that entire round. He did not give a rat's ass as to what exactly he would stumble into. He was basically just programmed to kill, and kill indeed.
Okay,
He went down over towards pillars, then brown stairs, and within about 20 seconds, he was rewarded with 2 frags. That basically opened up every single opportunity for the Frogs that they took full advantage of.
Now, 2 doors. Obviously, I said this in the break, but David Bob during this year, my final year at university, my 3rd year, David Bob in the second half was in my university team, Live, Laugh, Love.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm going to say the staple of Unisiege. I mean, some may think Sturksy, some may think Newell or Buell.
Jury's out on that one.
Jury's out? No, it was Live, Laugh, Love. I can quite safely say that, but he was our flex support, and he did a very good job. He's filling that role again, and he knows exactly what's needed. But the most interesting part is, I'm gonna give you a question, and I need you to answer it honestly. How long do you think he's been on keyboard and mouse?
How long ago were you guys playing?
He's been playing keyboard and mouse just under a year. And
I was thinking around 8 months. I was thinking about 8 months.
Nearly there, but Foreshaw's decided, yeah, Creedy, we like it when you talk, but you gotta talk about us. We'll be able to find David Bob, take him off the board with a spawn peek at a bakery that Unfortunately, if you're David Bob, you just kind of have to accept. But, well, what can you do if you're the team of Frogs? You got to go back up, complete this room clear, and just play the round out.
That was a very, very important frag that Team 9 were able to back themselves. David Bob didn't actually get any of his air jabs out, so there's a real opportunity for Team 9 to go on some very, very rancid run outs as the entirety of this round number 3 progresses. A lot of flanks, I should say, are available. The potential is just right there. Team 9, they have to grasp at it, though. Now, in a 5v4 scenario, the Frogs, they're going to have to take a step back and reevaluate their entire plan because of the fact that they are indeed a man down. There are so many different headaches that they have to deal with. The roamers down below and then clearing out each and every single piece of the puzzle that needs to be done. Reich is able to take down Tichy, and just like that, the Frogs are starting to work their way in towards that red staircase. But this is the only beachhead that they've been able to establish for themselves, and from here on out, it's going to become that much tougher to get the diffuser down in a somewhat safe position.
Half the round is left. Isle of Frogs barely made their way to red stairs. We're looking at Reich, and for sure they've been able to find those 2 all-important kills, and it seems to have worked. I mean, we're looking at the setup for Team 9. A lot of their later rounds of this defense aren't really having that much work. Heiser will go down below. Remember, Zero isn't brought, so that substitute for Nomad charges I was talking about isn't there, but Lanita, finding Reich, maybe finding something for the attacking side. For sure knows that somebody's over towards that position. Obviously, Reich literally just died from there. They don't know about you. You're gonna go up top, you're gonna strike, you're gonna find Heiser, you're gonna take them away. How many more can you find on this flank? Well, it's time to find out. Lenina will go on that all-important flank watch, but for sure has already crossed. Heiser will have to deal with this pixel position in 30 seconds left. They're starting to get stalled out in a massive way. Team 9, they're just getting aggressive. Lenina will do a little bit of damage to Heiser, which I think is gonna be accredited to for sure, but for sure it's going to be taken away. You need to get aggressive. 10 seconds ticking down on the clock. And one player, James, is still on that bomb site. It looks like Team 9 is set to win this round. And with Hazard going down, it's all but guaranteed. Lenina, you have the goo mine, but you have the HP to deal with it. More importantly, though, you have time to just sit back and say what went wrong.
What went wrong indeed? From the moment that David Bob was taken away by a lovely little spawn peak courtesy of Reich, it actually began to snowball quite heavily. I think before the Frogs were able to actually gain some kind of foothold at the top of red, they already lost out on 2 players, and that is a very, very precarious position to find yourself in. In the top floor of Cafe, well, you need all hands on deck. You need to ensure that you keep all 5 players' lives in tow to be able to, well, get that diffuser down and set up for a post plant, and that simply isn't the case because, well, as I said, if you are playing from the position of maintaining the man disadvantage, it becomes that much more difficult to establish a beachhead for yourself. We saw how dominant the Frogs were in the opening round, which was also played on bar, and we saw how easily they were able to take that dub. It was an entirely different story what we saw in round number 3. Team 9, they have finally been awoken. They have finally been activated, and now they're showing their true colors. So back down to kitchen we go. Let's see if they're able to shut down David Bob just as quickly as last time, because you saw what he was capable of doing in round number 2. He was able to find 2 kills in quick succession, and just like that, it opened up everything that Frogs needed to mount up an execution. Team 9 know what needs to be done, so let's see.
The big thing for me is that David Bob wasn't even playing it off of gun skill. It wasn't necessarily being an absolute gunner. It was playing it smart. Checking these areas that you don't know have been checked before. And right now, for sure, is wanting to try and get a spawn peak. Won't be able to land it just yet. But that's what I want to see. It's David Bob saying, okay, I need to check this area. I need to make this change. Right now, Frogs, they're very, very aware that this spawn peak can and probably will come through, as for sure is going back to that big window. We'll be looking for that kill. Nobody there, though, until Hazard shows their face. Will not be killed and will not run away, for sure. You stay alive, you're full HP. You've got to take it. Get up to the top floor. Support Reich. You two have a lot of potential to be very, very dangerous. I want to see that now.
As do I. Ooh, that would have been a really, really massive impact frag if Forshaw was able to land those shots, because if you take a look at the side of Isle of Frogs, they've only got one Heart Breacher and then a couple of trampolines in the back pocket of both Heizo and Lenina. That isn't necessarily enough to give yourself a proper avenue into the bomb site. You'd have to expend both of them onto the freezer wall if you want to plant behind the bomb chassis, but naturally that is something to worry about as the round progresses. For now though, they have to clear out both stage as well as the bar itself. iNoob, tucked in behind the piano, is able to open things up by finding Heizo, and just like that you have lost out on your SAM cams and one of your can openers. There is a second player to deal with in case if iNoob starts feeling too much heat, but unfortunately enough the reinforcements don't come in on time. Forshaw is able to pick up Lenina as well, so now we're sat in a 4v3 situation. All of the action is taking place on the top floor, and this is burning out so much of the Frogs' clock. There's only 75 seconds left for them to work with, and now that they have actually cleared out the top floor, well, guess what? They have to do the exact same thing on the second floor as everyone else has turned tail. They've turned their tails, and they're now sat inside of library and train.
Why would they do anything else right now? A minute is left on the clock, and these roamers very, very slippery and hard to deal with. Right, and for sure, well, I talked about that, Kivers, that coordination and that fluidity and the chemistry that these two will have, and right now it is certainly showing. They will get droned out, but you're playing off of each other. As soon as Forshaw dies, Reich is in a position to help deal with that. But right now, you're letting somebody just get a little bit too close. Forshaw's able to find a double kill, though. Will you be able to find a third? No, that's going to be David Bob able to find the refrag. But 30 seconds are left. Reich's able to get Hazard, and suddenly, David Bob, we talked about how good you were playing. But you need to get to that bomb site. You need to get a plant down, and you don't have the diffuser. David Bob, where are you going? You need to take that gunfight if you want to play for frags as well. 14 seconds on the clock. I may be a little bit confused, but maybe David Bob has got something I'm not aware of. We're not going to see it, though. Mally will shut them down, and that is going to be a very comfortable round for Team 9. This roam game is just impressing me completely.
It becomes a massive struggle to deal with, and I think this really stems from Team 9's overall awareness as to what they're up against. The exact same thing that I said earlier for the Deviants against the Ludens. They are adapting to their own opponents, and I absolutely love it. Team 9, they brought out Vigil that was brought up by iNoob, as well as the Mozzie that was being brought by Reich. Those are two operators that can outright just deny a lot of potential info gathering on the side of the offense. And we saw how reliant the Frogs are on having tangible information at their fingertips to be able to clear out those top floors. That was not a luxury that was available for the Frogs, and they paid a very costly price for not necessarily predicting where Team 9 could have and would have been sitting. But that's just sometimes how the cookie crumbles, and there's not much that you can do it besides brushing it off your shoulder and looking to the next two rounds. Naturally, the Frogs, being on the back foot by nature because of the fact that they're on the attacker side, they've done an adamant job of getting themselves 2 rounds, which is perfectly average for being on the attack. If they're able to pick up an extra one, since there are 2 rounds left in this first half, they will set themselves up for success when the second half rolls around. Okay. And let's touch on this Cav. Let's touch on this Cav, because I just love to see one of the worst operators be brought out into Calm Siege, and I'm really curious to see exactly what iNoob is capable of.
Well, first of all, you probably shouldn't call it one of the worst operators.
In Calm Siege.
Our boss, in Calm Siege, probably, because what the Cav requires to deal with is coordination and information. Most importantly, it's the basics of Siege you need to be ready to deal with. And right now, iNoob is going to demonstrate that it is very, very important. You back away. They don't know you're at White Stairs. If they're going to be on that rappel, the longer iNoob stays down nearby, close enough, cause a lot of issues. Now, I'm going to use the example of our boss, Pigalicious, a wonderful person and makes a league that you're watching right now. He loves Kavira because he can take advantage of misthrows. He can take advantage of mistakes in flank watch. That's what Team 9 want to use. Right now, Heizo, though, will be wanting to take control of the White Stairs. The information will be gathered from the top side of Frogs. But simply put, that's exactly what a Cav is meant to do. You avoid those 2 drones. Suddenly, Frogs, they think that minibar's clear. They're going to drop. They're going to walk right into your arms, and that's at least going to be a kill, maybe even an interrogation, maybe even 2 kills. And suddenly, you have to really worry for the side of the Frogs. Ainu still not thrown out, still not known his position. We'll just wait. The longer you stay alive, like I said, the better, because there's David being taken off the board. Ainu's just going to run away, and half the round is left. What a blow to strike, because now you're looking at that player on red stairs. Ted Tichy, they're not comfortable. They either got to push down or up above. Either way, there are enemies. There are players of Team 9 to deal with. And Frogs, well, what are they going to do? Tichy,
Oh, no.
gonna do nothing except hold those flank cameras. You've just been struck by the smooth Kavira.
Smooth as butter. And there he goes with a third as well. Go on, son! Okay, never mind. Lenina's gonna take Ainu out of commission, and it's about darn time as well. The Frogs, they are left in a 2v4 scenario. Time management has been a massive issue to deal with, but can you really blame them? It is that much more difficult to clear out a Caveira that is just simply having a field day. He is taking damage from the opposite end of the hallway, through the wall as well, and the Frogs, they are left with little to no options to work with besides maybe getting lucky in a couple of gunfights, because time isn't on their side. Map control is certainly not on their side either. They have not been able to make any strides towards taking that top floor, let alone the actual bomb site itself. And they are peered over by this train engine portion of the map, and it is heavily reinforced by Team 9. James is able to strike, and Farshwa is going to be rewarded with the final frag onto Hazza. That went about as damn well as it could have for Team 9, and it's all because of Ainu, but the unknown factor just being an absolute goddess of mischief on the Caveira and just going to town.
Absolutely. That Caveira play, very, very nicely done, because like I said, you rely on misdroning, and David Bob, he's got to be yelling at the team. He's got to be saying, right, we need to deal with this. Obviously, you see the Jackal come through. That is a direct counter saying, yes, she can cause some issues. Obviously, it is going to get 6-big as it stands. But that Jackal, you're flashing it, you're saying, if you bring that Caveira, we are bringing something to deal with it. You have bit us once. We're not going to let you do it again. Our biggest change has to be that you need to have that droning. You need to tighten it down. That's why Caveira is so impactful if used correctly. The 6-pick, though, is something we should also talk about. The Ying, the inclusion of this Candela bringing operator. That's something we need to talk about for this site as well. And I think Piano is where we're going to see a lot of its use.
I feel like Team 9, they may have just preemptively shot themselves in the foot. Obviously, they're completely unbeknownst to this Ying being 6-picked onto. The main reason why I'm saying that Team 9 are in for a rude awakening is because they have absolutely zero catchers. No Jaeger, no Amai. You can make an argument for Rooney being able to fulfill that role, but I doubt it, because those Candels, they can just simply roll directly under those Surya gates. And if the Frogs, and specifically Heizo, are able to, well, utilize those Candelas very, very properly, then Team 9 are surely going to lose this round when the execution is set into motion. But what are the odds that we actually get there? Because a lot of what has happened thus far on Cafe is predefined in the early rounds. And if that kill were to have stuck, this entire pocket strategy that the Frogs were willing to employ would have just been chucked out the window. Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah, well, Heizo stays alive, as do all the players of the Frogs, but you're looking at Team 9, this is completely different to what we saw in the first couple of rounds. Team 9, they're aggressive. You're looking at players like Ainu and James, they're starting to step up. James able to find Lenina. Well, that Maverick is gone, and while it's not as important of an operator, the frag grenades, the M4, has taken off the board, and I Love Frogs, they're looking a lot less comfortable. They're looking a lot more on the back foot, but David Bob's able to find one kill at the right. Are you going to aggress onto Forshaw? You are! But Forshaw's going to bite back, able to find 2 kills, and a minute 45 on the clock, and 2 players are left. Our observer Science is absolutely baffled, but yet again, he remains doing an incredible job. We do love you, Science, and as we have to say every single stream, we do love Science. Now, that air jab isn't actually going to work, because the air jabs only trigger when the player's 2 feet are on the floor, which means that while Mali's going to be able to find a kill onto Tichy, that air jab isn't going to have the desired impact. And Heizo, you have got a lot of work cut out for you, but for sure, jumps out and makes it a third. 4-2 split, Toodles, and we're going to be going into the side switch.
Man, I don't really want to throw out this word right now, but Team 9, they are living up to the potential of proper rats thus far. That is what I have actually seen in the last 2 rounds. They are taking each and every single opportunity that smacks them across the face.
They have the talent
they got the talent to do it, and it has been working out tremendously thus far. More often than not, the Frogs don't even know what hit them. It is really, really baffling that the team of the Frogs' caliber are unable to compete with this raw, unbridled aggression that Team 9 are exhibiting, throwing caution to the wind and they're just playing their hearts out, and it's working thus far. This was a lovely little flick from David Bott.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact that Farshwa was able to find not 1 but 2 frags, dropping the diffuser outside of Christmas, my oh my, round-defining stuff from them.
Yes, but it's not over till the fat lady sings, and I haven't put on my singing shoes just yet, you know. So the Frogs, not the best attacking half they could hope for, but Kav Dostoevsky, a 40 split. Yeah, I've seen worse in my experience.
We have seen worse,
so,
yeah.
You know, I look at the Frogs and I say, okay, there's an opportunity here. You can get to work. Nina, absolutely love you. You're a great player, great person as well, and a great Maestro camera to boot as well. Interesting part of this for me is Hazard bringing that P90. Now, they've gone for an interesting strategy. They've gone for both. When I said you could only pick one, apparently I was wrong. You can take both lines of sight, but the big problem is it's very easy for attackers to reach open. That's very easy for them to expose a massive entry onto Freezer, and therefore onto sight. I want to see the impact of it. I want to see how they approach it, but right now, Mali, he's going to be positioning himself for a heaven take, and if he's able to get it off at the right time, in the worst case scenario, you're distracting the enemy team. In the best case, you're opening up everything.
Science, can we quickly just catch a glimpse of heaven itself to see if it's entirely empty by the defense? Indeed it is. There is two players are actually prepped and primed to respond in the event that Mali does repel on there. And as you can see, the drones are quickly flooding on in to confirm that information. Mali, he's waiting for the green light, but obviously he needs a distraction. He needs the rest of his team to do their part so that he can just quickly slip on through. This is going to be a very, very slow and methodical push that Team 9 are going to exhibit, because it all relies on Mali being able to make it safely into heaven. The moment that he does, he can effectively cut off the entire cocktail portion of the map and render it entirely unplayable. It may be happening. It is basically just as... This is nail biting. When are you going to do it, Mali?
The second call, it's got to be then. You've got Inube down below. You've got the rest of T9 ready to drop. Mali's going to walk in. He's not able to find the first kill. The distraction is there, though. Heizo's able to find a second. For sure finds a refrag, but a 3 versus 4. Make that a second as David Bob's there. Hazard adds on as well. It's down to James now to keep the Frogs from picking up a third round. Very low HP on this new balcony. You can push through. 1:12 on the clock, but you have a lot of work to deal with. 2 Maestro cameras giving away that information. 2 mirror windows, making life just a little bit harder, because what else can you say other than mirror windows and being a pain? James is now going to have to try and play the stealth game, but like I said, the information very much is stacked against you. That mirror window will give away your position, and 45 seconds on the clock. You've got to go into a crossfire. You can't wait too long. That mirror window in Freezer is going to be horrible. They know you're going to be coming from white with 30 seconds left. Honestly, there's nothing left to do other than take this time to talk about what went wrong. But if you're James, you're just going to give it a go anyway. The smoke pops. You start pushing in. You're ready for the player on white. You find a kill to Heizo. But can you get 2 more? Still really, really low HP. And the player of Hazard is prone. Time ticking down. Well, you've got to make this push, or you've got to decide what you're doing. You cross, and Titchy will shut things out. A good effort towards the end, but the round was over the second that Mali got taken out on Heaven.
Yeah, it was a really, really great attempt. I loved the fact that the Frogs actually even attempted such a, the Team 9 actually attempted such a strategy, but it backfired and it was shut down the instant that it happened. The round was basically over before he even had a proper chance to begin the moment that Mali repelled on in. if and only if the moment that you actually grapple on in, you don't necessarily land like 2 or 3 meters in front of the window, just like on the windowsill, maybe he could have been able to keep his life in tow, but I don't know. We'll have to wait on Ubisoft to make that potential change. But regardless, though, that was a really, really quick response on the side of the Frogs. They were able to, as I said, shut down the pressure as it was being applied. They kept themselves cool, calm, and collected as if they had already come against this strategy multiple times before. They knew exactly which gunfights they needed to take, and it all actually boiled down towards Hazza on the Rook, with that P90 being able to spray and pray. Also paying dividends, I guess one could say, because he shut down Malu, then he changed his angle and his LOS over towards Cocktail and shut down the players that were also ingressing from that portion of the map. It was just a really, really rapid response on the side of Frags and on the side of Frogs, and that is one of the most defining aspects that makes a great team a great team.
I think you can call them frags at this point. Based on the last round, that's exactly what happened. You know, they played very nicely. The crossfires were there. They realized what the push was coming through. Like you said, it looked like they dealt with it before. And
it looked predetermined and premeditated.
Before I say anything more, it looks like we're seeing a very aggressive Team 9 walking through. Tinchy's gonna make sure it doesn't work. It's a flurry of frags, and for sure, all on his own will be picked up by David Bob. The double door was heard, called, and shut down. Very, very fast round, and with it, the Frogs will be able to equalize.
I thought that we were done with our clown plays already, but I guess we weren't. Jeez.
Yeah, no. You gotta keep the clown wig on. The costume stays on, Toodles. Come on.
It stays on during the cast. Fine, indeed it does. Are you? Wait, I'm not wearing a clown costume. Are you purposely calling me out on my drip?
I mean,
do I look like a clown to you?
Round
Genuinely.
9. Team 9 and Frogs are evened up at the moment. It's okay. But the big problem for me is Team 9. They have a lot of things going well for them. They lost one round, and I feel like that wasn't the play. Because you might notice that mental might be a little bit gone. Because obviously you look at Frogs being able to win these gunfights. You know, they had a lot of guns looking towards this double doors. They were just lucky that they were positioned in such a nice way to deal with it. But Team 9, you've just let them equalize, and I feel like play that like a normal round with the roam clear, with the droning, with the vertical play. We could have seen a 5-3 scoreline instead of the 4-4 that we're on now. However, I'm very happy to see that Frogs, they're still in the fight, and we're getting to see what more they have on that even playing field. That mental block, probably not going to be there in the last two defensive rounds.
No, indeed, it's not going to be there anymore. Naturally, after bouncing back from 2 wins, I should say, actually, bouncing back from a flurry of losses, 4 rounds unanswered in the first half, and then being able to shut down Team 9's overall aggression 2 times in a row, it's really going to change up exactly how your mental is being exhibited in the next couple of rounds. So it's a massive boon on the side of Frogs, and they're looking to take full advantage of it. Naturally, on the side of Team 9, I really, really wish that a lot of their aggressive plays would have actually continued to work, but now they're going to have to quit the games, quit joshing around, and do things the good old-fashioned way. Just like Reich is showing us right here. He may have been asleep at the wheel for this second half thus far, but he's able to open things up by taking Heizo out of commission. So the opening frag has already been bagged by Team 9, the first one in this second half as well, if I'm not mistaken. So now they're setting themselves up for success quite adamantly.
Yes, now Nina has a really good position on Cocktail. The biggest problem, though, is that single wall is not reinforced. David Bob is nearby in support, but the big problem is that Lanina's going to feel a lot of pressure before David Bob can do anything about it. Some damage will come through, but not enough to land the kill that is badly needed at this point. Frogs, they hold it tight, they hold it safe, they drone out, they know these positions, and right now Lanina's going to feel a little bit of pressure from White that David Bob is going to have to stall out, or Hazard at the very least. Now, time is ticking down, and Frogs, they've only lost 1 player, but it looks like Team 9, they're about to win this out. For sure is able to find Lanina, but David Bob has got a refrag. David Bob needs to find a couple more, though. You're all on your own. Can you get Yana? No, you can't. A C4 will go out to find For sure. Doesn't land the kill, as Ainu will be revived, and David Bob has no option but to try and think about falling back, at least into that bathroom position.
Ooh, David Bob. He continues to linger on by the top floor before finally being taken out by James. So now we sit in a 3v2 scenario as Team 9. They have successfully claimed control of the top floor, and they still have 55 seconds left to shift their attention towards that bottom floor. And execution is definitely a possibility. They just need to clear out Tichy, because Haza, he's on the white staircase. He isn't necessarily a very impactful position for the time being. So that's why I'm saying the moment that Tichy is gone, the entire library bomb site, it is open for business, and that's exactly what Team 9 are looking to accomplish. Barricade and Surya Gate, they've got to be burnt on out before they can actually set foot physically inside of there, and I don't suspect they'll be working their way in through the hallway, but I did catch out a rotate in towards train, so maybe a fireplace plant, but I'm not exactly counting on it for the time being. 15 seconds left, mission critical, and now Team 9, they've got to make the first move. They find themselves on the bomb site, the plant starts to go down, the coverage, it's not there whatsoever. Tichy, he shuts down the diffuser, and Farsha can't make it in time. No! It slipped through the fingers of Team 9, and the Frogs are able to clench it out from the jaws of defeat.
I'm not really sure what happened there, but I'll try and break it down for you. Basically, with Hazard's position, Hazard was ready to deal with, for sure, being over towards that dining and at least applying that pressure. Like you said, though, incredibly beautifully well played coming out from Tichy, I believe.
Yeah.
The Mute being able to just find those frags. You don't get the kill with the C4, but more importantly, you stop the plank going down. If you stop that plank going down, you're forcing Shaw into such a horrible position. I mean, Lanina and David Bob, they had a really good hold upstairs that I was very worried for. It was very tentative, very uncomfortable. They made it work. They wasted a lot of time. And apparently enough to make sure that they were able to win out the round at the end. And the Frogs, for the first time since round 4, have had the lead. They are one round from match point, and they're on the defensive side. Suddenly, Two Doors, you have to kind of be feeling good for the Frogs, don't you?
I mean, we are both backing them up, so naturally, I'm feeling relatively pretty about my own prediction, and on the set...
hashtag feeling froggy, sorry.
Feeling froggy. Can we get that, not, at the very least, can we get that built up inside a Twitch chat before it goes to the TL? I'd really love to see it.
Mr. Social Media Man, if Frogs win this game, can we get a hashtag feeling froggy?
I know Bingus is watching, he's always watching.
There's a social media man's always watching, man.
You've heard our wishes, now please respect them, Fungus.
We're just content to him, but you know, that's what we want to be. We want to be entertaining, and that's exactly what this game has been. Right now, Heiser's Rome is looking to be exactly that. Very fluid, very mobile, and more importantly, reactive. You're playing where you know these attackers are coming from, and you know you might be able to have that impact. And that's what I like to see from you. You're reacting with your own game to what the attackers are doing. You're not trying to force them to do something. You're just saying, okay, they're doing this. Well, I'm going right here. If they're jumping into engine room, I'm going down below with a C4.
Did he finally get that mute jammer? I know he's been trying to dispose of it for quite some time. I think he might have finally landed it. What's not going to land is the kill. Potentially this C4, but no, it doesn't even make it past the doorway. So Heizo, he's going to turn tail and head for the hills and keep himself alive for the remainder of this round. But I fear that Team 9, they may have already caught his scent once again as iNoob. He's waiting for some kind of rotation, potentially into Laundry, or hell, even a drop if that's what the player inside of Cocktail is looking to accomplish. Little does he know that Heizo is on the white staircase and tries to pre-fire him as he thought Heizo was ascending the staircase, but no. The Mozzie is still down below as we have 80 seconds left to play with. Team 9, they're struggling for some kind of opening, but I do believe that, oh, they are inside the library. If they were on the bomb site, that would have been a heart attack for the Frogs.
I think I nearly had a mini one as well. I thought that as well. But now Red Stairs, I didn't know. Heizo is able to catch him off guard and will just run downstairs. That mute jammer wasn't caught out. Look at its position right on that bar. almost impossible to hit, and that player on Repel is going to struggle. That's why Reich has decided to get in on sight. Will we able to find Lenina? David Bob has an answer, but Reich has a chick behind him. He's able to find David Bob, though. That's the important part for sure. Will fall to Heizo. 2 versus 3, and the diffuser is going down. Will be cancelled, though, and Reich will start to take damage from the vertical play. Titchy's able to get that diffuser off the board, and now James, yet again, you're trying to stop the Frogs from getting over to match point, and well, the Frogs, they're feeling #Froggy. And James, what can you really do? You make them rotate into piano, but 20 seconds. You gotta go for the diffuser. Titchy makes sure that doesn't happen. And the Frogs, they struggled on the attack, but their defense is working out so far.
Indeed. One more round to go, and they will have successfully gotten themselves 3 points, but unfortunately enough, that doesn't actually propel them all the way to first place. They will effectively be tied with the likes of the Ludens for first place in terms of round differential, but still, it is quite the feat. I really, really want to actually chew on what Reich was able to accomplish in that particular round, because he was so close to being the defining factor and the winning, sort of like the winning boon for the side of Team 9, just basically saying, screw it, I'm gonna get up close and personal with all of the defenders and just get all up in their jam, which he was able to do. He found himself 2 frags, and he was so close to sticking the diffuser, but he fell off of it because he feared that there may have been a C4 from down below. Naturally, he knew in the back of his mind that Heiza was still on the prowl, but he had already expended a C4 about 40 seconds earlier, 40 seconds prior, and then,
But you don't know that. You don't.
Yeah, he doesn't know that, but I'm pretty sure that it may have been called out. Regardless as to whether or not it was called out, he fell off of the plant and he walked into Titchy's line of sight, and then just like that, the round became unsalvageable. But still, it was a stroke of brilliance on the side of Team 9. Reich was so close to success. He was so close to actually achieving a 5th round for Team 9. We could have been set at a 5-5 scoreline right now, but falling off the plant was a detriment for them. But still, I don't want to take away from the positives, because Team Reich, he basically gave, or Reich gave Team 9 a winning shot in that round when nearly all hope was lost.
It's a bit of a bold statement there. It's Team Reich, but you know, we'll let it slide anyway. Moving into this possibly final round, actually, Frogs. You're not out of the neck of the woods yet. We're looking at Team 9. They might have looked to coordinate a few of these issues. Last time on this side, they all rushed them through double, but right now, they're making a very fast entrance into Bakery. That wall is being opened up, and suddenly, or the prep wall is being opened up, and suddenly Titchy and Nina, they're ready to respond. They're ready to deal with it. But the drones are coming through. The information game is there for Team 9 already. There's a line of sight made, and I think Titchy, or not Titchy, gonna be Lenina wants to peek it. I mean, I don't think she should. You gotta pull back. You gotta play it safe. That's a position that they need to go into, not yourself. And that's why For Sure is gonna lead our way in at the 2-minute mark. The shield is gone. The Gemini is taken away, and while you know the position of this player, peeking it feels like absolute suicide if you are For Sure. Time's gonna tick down, and Frogs just gonna stimmer a little bit.
Ooh, I saw that Ainoob was actually contemplating cooking a grenade and chucking it in towards that, not prep area, but over towards the B-bomb site itself, but he actually fell off and decided to face peek it, face check it, and he took a bit of damage. Who is going to take damage himself, or herself, I should say, is Lenina, being taken down, I believe, over by the window itself or elsewhere on the bomb site. So the opening frag now bagged by Team 9 means that they can, well, essentially just play a lot of really advantageous gunfights. Their overall refract potential is sky high, and now they've barged their way onto the bomb site as Titchy has been taken out of commission. The diffuser is soon to go down, and the clock now reset down to 45 seconds. And just like that, all of Team 9 are going to rudely interrupt me in my horrendous play-by-play, as it's an utter collapse. Nothing but a sea of blue painted the kill feed. And just like that, Team 9, they are forcing us all the way to the last round of regulation to see if they can deny Frogs the full 3 points. All it takes is one more round for Team 9 to, at the very least, have secured themselves a single point.
I'm going to look at this. I'm going to say, simply put, I think Team 9, they just really like narratives to those, because you compare that last round with a couple of rounds before. I mean, that last round, they were able to win a very tight gunfight onto Lenina. That opened up kitchen. They walked in, they had crossfires, they had that flanking action, they had everything they needed. They had refrags. It was a very well played round by them, and my question is, why is this not consistent? Why are they not able to deliver like this in the couple of rounds before? Returning to this kitchen site, I've got to say, I'm not exactly sure. I'd want to see Frogs go back to that reading dining, because that was still a very, very good defense. It came down to 2 versus 3, but the way it was played was very, very competently and very, very skilled. So I'd be happy seeing them go there again. That's not the approach they want to take, though. So, I want to see maybe a little bit of pressure towards Bakery. Maybe have somebody towards that bottom of red stairs or Kochak. Just have that pressure. Don't let them feel that comfortable to the point where they can take one gunfight and start walking into sight.
Yeah, that's true. I think Kochek pressure could have actually really, really sort of paid off in that last round because of the fact that Inoob was just randomly inside of the bar and willing to toss frag grenades over like it's nobody's business. Naturally, if we had somebody in Kochek, that wouldn't have been a viable option for Inoob. And it looks like it's going to be the exact same thing and an exact mirror image of what we saw last round as Inoob already waltzes on in, has the long angle down towards Small Bakery and could potentially click on a single person's head. I believe that may have been Tichy inside of there, but other than that, the pilgrimage towards the top floor has already begun. Now, it is known that Team 9 are willing to exert a lot of vertical pressure and ensure that Frogs are starting to feel uncomfortable, but there is one little hurdle that they actually have to go against. I believe there is a player, potentially David Bob or someone else, in Pillars. No, it's actually Heizo that is in the engine room, so the sooner they spot out Heizo, the better, and then they can let Inoob do his thing with the sledgehammer.
I want Inoob to stay on that white stairs, because what they've done now is given Heizo an exit route. Obviously, you could go on red stairs, but that's a lot more dangerous when it comes to the crossfires. But Heizo, if you don't win this gunfight, if you do win this gunfight, you can walk down white stairs. If you did have Inoob covering the white stairs, well, you wouldn't be able to do it. Now, Tichy's going to give you a seal. Tichy's going to walk away and not give you a stim. 50 points of XP. You could have given it to Heizo. Not going to happen. Tichy's going to go back to site, and Tichy is going to say, okay, well, I probably need it a little bit more then. Sure, why not? Half the round is gone, and the vertical play is
absolute freaking greedy dog mentality. Jesus, I'm getting PTSD from all of those memes that we used to see on the daily basis back in year one. Speaking of memes, Inoob just got styled on by Haas. A lovely little C4 for Frogs to bag themselves the entry. 70 seconds left to go, and Team 9 they're starting to breach open the freezer wall, meaning that they want to go for a default plant behind the chassis, but there's two players that they have to power on through, and now Inoob, well, because of the fact that he's been taken out of commission, can't exert any pressure on towards Kochek. Farshaw is going to try to do exactly that, but Tichy, he's just going to town. Two lovely little shots to dome both Reich and Farshaw, and just like that, it's down to Malu and James in a 2v5 scenario. 40 seconds left as the diffuser has indeed been dropped, and Malu is checking his corners, but Aiza wasn't stood there whatsoever, and now it's all down to James. It's a clutch or kiss scenario. It might not all be just smooshes yet, as he finds David Bob, but 25 seconds left to go, and needing to click on 4 individual heads in that time frame, it is a very, very difficult task to accomplish. You may be able to recover the diffuser and potentially get it down, but we're in the business end of this round. James, all hope is lost, and there it is. The final nail on the coffin is struck courtesy of Lenina, and we have the Frogs finally being able to close it out. It took all 12 rounds of regulation, but they stepped up to the plate and they accomplished it. 3 points now in the bag for the Frogs.
Yes, well, that was a beautiful piece of play-by-play, Theodores. Frogs,
Thank
they
you.
realized at the end they weren't messing around. Their playtime was over. They were going to win those gunfights, and they did quite nicely. I feel like Inoob, the positioning did let them down a little bit, because obviously you had the players on the top floor. If you know there's players in Museum, keep Inoob at white stairs, get the drop coming down on the pillars. You have a really good way to pinch them. Obviously, we saw Heiser go down red stairs. It was just the fastest way down. But if you give the rest of your team time to get control of their top of red stairs, you can really force Heiser into uncomfortable positions. I feel like that was a big problem. Obviously, Inoob dying out very early to that C4. A bit of an issue, because then a lot of the legwork came down at the very end to the Buck, and the Buck had to do all that. Well, the rest of the team was dying. You find a refrag. But overall, Frogs, a very, very well played round. They were able to shut things down. I mean, Tichy, you didn't stim up Heizo, but it didn't really matter.
At the end
you
of
went
the day,
on and
no.
got a couple of kills. Yeah, You won the round, so I mean, it's a team game, and that philosophy comes in full circle when you think, well, yeah, Doc should heal the team, but, well, it's a team game, won the round anyway. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Ultimately, for me, I feel like the Frogs, that was really well played, but Team 9, they kind of let themselves down a little bit in a few rounds. I mean,
They did.
there's 2 rounds in particular that you have to look at and say that one definitely, when they went in double door completely, if they played that normally, if they played that in the default strategy, rather than going for a rush, that was winnable. They didn't have to let the Frogs equalize and then take the lead and then take match point.
The one thing that I will say, and I know this might just be Team 9 willing to have a little bit of fun here. Obviously, that's what we're all here for at the end of the day. We love video games and we do love to have fun, but Team 9 had a real shot at winning the entire matchup. And the main reason why I'm saying this is because of the fact that they won 4 rounds in a row. At the start of the matchup. 4 rounds in a row, that momentum then should have actually carried over to the second half. Imagine if it did. Imagine if Team 9 weren't actually willing to josh around and basically just go like the full comp mentality and do everything, and I mean anything to get that win. They could have potentially been sat on match point first with a 6-2 scoreline, and then it would have been the Frogs with their backs against the wall. Naturally, I might be reading a bit too deep into this, and I might just being a bit too harsh on Team 9, but it is a real possibility. They could have ended off the matchup much faster if it wasn't for them taking gambles, and don't get me wrong, those were entertaining gambles that we did see, especially the Amaru rappel in towards heaven. It didn't pay off, but naturally, if you take a high-risk, high-reward play, you don't want to do the exact same thing in the follow-up round. If you take a high-risk, high-reward play and it doesn't pay off, well, hey, you set it aside and you go back to the basics. You don't then go in for a double rush. Maybe you do that at a later stage in the matchup towards round number 11 or 12, because trying to catch your opponent off guard with their pants down twice in a row, it just doesn't work out. It's not a dynamic that any team will actually sort of fall to.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I always say. I mean, if you're able to catch a team off in such a way once, they're going to expect it. They're going to be ready. It's going to be in the back of their mind the next time. Think about it, Theodos. You've been Amaru rushed in one window, and a team has just completely come through on your ranked game and blasted you apart.
Yeah.
Well, what do?
It's painful.
You focus on that window. You are ready for them to do it again. And while obviously Team 9 didn't do the exact same thing again, the kind of strategy was very similar. It was, let's go in, win our gunfights, and be better. And unfortunately, they gave Frogs the advantage, who, I want to be honest, they played a really good game of Siege. Their attacks, the first couple of rounds, they only got the 2, in the first half, but it was what they needed, so that when they went onto the defense, and they had that little bit of leeway from 9, they were able to bring it up. They were able to deliver some good rounds. I mean, obviously we say, well, 9 definitely gave them a couple of rounds, but at the end of the day, Frogs still had to win it. They still had to take these gunfights. They still had to take into account the fact that the Amaru coming through meant there was pushes everywhere else. They played a very good game of Rainbow Six Siege, and even when 9 weren't messing about, the Frogs were able to tighten it up, and I feel like they should have their heads held high, certainly.
No, I actually couldn't have said it better myself. Took the words right out of my mouth. At the end of the day, MILF, they still needed to win 5 different gunfights across the map, and they were able to do that regardless as to what Team 9 actually threw their way. So, honestly, props to both squads. Props to 9 for being so willing to actually experiment with a lot of really goofy strategies. Some may have not paid off, but when they were actually playing proper, competent Siege, they really showed a lot of strokes of brilliance, especially on their defense in that first half. I saw a lot of stuff, a lot of improvements, specifically round-to-round adaptations that ended up bagging themselves tons and tons of rounds. It was just a bit of a shame that they couldn't see the exact same success and actually match it in the second half. But that technically does actually conclude all that we have to offer for week number 2. So before we do sign off, Creedy, any closing thoughts?
Simply put, I'm feeling froggy. Second
Always.
of all, I feel like the games that we've seen definitely there isn't a definitive loser. I mean, obviously when you get a couple of weeks in, then the higher end teams and lower end teams certainly show themselves, but I feel like the mid table is going to be a very exciting part for the next couple of weeks, and so far today, certainly, we haven't seen any bottom level teams at the moment. All of the teams we've seen so far, they have a lot of potential, they have a lot of magic about them. It's just to what degree they can keep that about, how tight they can keep their basics, how well they can do the simple things, and more importantly, how well they have their prepared mentality going up against some of the stronger teams. Like, for example, we see Frogs and Nine going up against Ludens, or maybe Atlas or Veggie Patch, you know, some of these real heavy hitter teams.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of really, really close matchups in the weeks to come, and it is just super duper exciting to see exactly how it's all going to transpire. If we get as close of a season this time around as last season, because keep in mind last season we could barely even predict who the top 4 teams were going to be when we still had like 3 weeks left over of actual gameplay. It was really, really exciting, and almost each and every single one of us on the side of the staff, we were at the edge of our seats to just figure out who's going to be in the top 4. So if we get another one of those seasons, I myself am going to be a very happy man. But that actually does conclude all that we have to offer for week number 2 and everything that we have to offer for Tuesday Night Bull. Naturally, let's go ahead and actually run through next week's schedule. Starting off on Monday night, July the 19th at 6 p.m. BST, we've got the Frogs going up against Combat Wombats as match number 1. Number 2 is going to be Ludens versus Team Trident, and closing off Monday night is Veggie Patch versus IOM. I personally think that that might be my game of the week, but that's up for debate. A week from today, on the 20th, we've got PW going up against the Deviants, and to close off week number 3, Atlas versus Team 9. That is the schedule for next week. So, from all of us right here that are working the graveyard shift and working from behind the scenes, we'd like to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for sticking around with us, and we will see you guys next week on Monday the 19th for the continuation of Bull Season 3. Until then, stay safe, take care, and we will see you guys on the flip side.